Benz was going to open in prayer tonight, and since he's not here, we are going to put our new leaders at the Salvation Army on the spot. Would you like to come up and introduce yourselves and open us in prayer?
Mark,
Nothing like being instant in season on the spot right now. So thank you for doing the quick introduction, because we look forward to meeting our new leaders here, and then
Where the others went.
You don't I'll let them say it. They went to Riverside, California. I'm Margie Potter with the Salvation Army, and down there. And so these guys have come up here, and they're going to be here through the end of the year. And I'll let you give them give their own credentials. They were they're lieutenant colonels, and they were divisional commanders over 2 different divisions. And so it's Lieutenant Joe and Sean Pasilico, and I'll let them take it from there.
thank you.
We're retired officers. We like retirement, but sometimes you get called out. And it's just a pleasure for us to be here. We're a transitional team. We're here through the end of January, getting some things happen and putting things together. Just to let you know about an update on the shelter really quick. We've got clearance through the fire marshal, the health department, to do in-house meal service instead of serving on the streets. We've met with the neighbors around the shelter, addressed all their complaints, and we're working now on a plan to open the family shelter, we hope within the next month, and we'll see where things go. So that's what we're doing here, and my wife's going to actually pray for you. How's that?
Where are you? Where do you come from?
We
Yeah,
live
I'm
in
sorry.
Phoenix, Arizona. We retired from the Salvation Army. My wife and I were divisional leaders for the Southwest Division, covering Arizona, New Mexico, and Southern Nevada. Prior to that, we were in Northern California, out of San Francisco, and covered that division as well.
Well, you're in God's country now.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been with the Salvation Army for nearly 50 years. And so my wife's parents were Salvation Army officers as well, so it runs in the family.
That is wonderful.
So it would be my honor to have the invocation tonight.
And following that, we will do the pledge if you would like to also lead us.
Test
Thank
my
you.
memory, you bet. Let's pray. Almighty God, we praise you and thank you for who you are and how much you love us. We ask that you would be with the proceedings tonight, that we might honor you in all we say and we do. Just be here with us now. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, and welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome, thank you. Okay, so let's start with roll call.
Rodriguez?
Here.
Bruner?
Here.
Hutchie? Here. Levi?
Present.
Haverfield?
Here.
Bauer?
Here.
So the only proposed amendments that I would have to the agenda at this time are we're going to rearrange a couple of items due to the people that are here waiting. And so I think the order in which I would like to suggest we go in is item number 5.1, 5.2. Then we're going to move down to 5.5. And then cover item number 5.9 and 5.10 prior to public hearing. If we can get more done, that would be great. And then we'll come back and do 5.3 and 4 after that, if that's okay with council. And are there any other suggested changes to the agenda? Seeing none, I would stand for a motion to accept the consent agenda as proposed.
So moved.
Second.
Mayor, so the one action item, we are postponing that, or where do we?
We will actually vote to continue that.
Okay,
I think we'll take a vote when we get there.
okay, thanks.
Thank you. So any other discussion or questions? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Bruner?
Yes.
Hutchie?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Okay, tonight we have, the next item on the agenda are proclamations, and we have two proclamations this evening. And the first one is Constitution Week. And here this evening, I see Rhonda and Steve Kren out there. And then also Susie Christensen, are you here? Susie? And then Tracy. Hi, thank you. I'm going to read your proclamation, and you can come up while I'm reading, and then you can speak to us for just a second. So, whereas the Constitution, I've got the wrong one in front of me. Whereas September 17th, 2020 marks the 233rd anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention. And whereas it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this magnificent document and its memorable anniversary, and to the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate the occasion. And whereas Public Law 1915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America designating September 17th through the 23rd as Constitution Week. Now therefore, I, Deborah Kling, Mayor of the City of Nampa, do hereby proclaim September 17th through the 23rd, 2020 to be Constitution Week in Nampa, Idaho, and I ask our citizens to reaffirm the ideals the framers of the Constitution had in 1787 by vigilantly protecting the freedoms guaranteed through us, through this guardian of our liberties. I want to say thank you to the Daughters of the Revolution. Thank you for your work. That I'll let you talk to us.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor and the council. We appreciate you having us here this evening. And I'd like to address you and the guests here in the audience that the Daughters of the American Revolution strive to achieve education and patriotism, and we support our veterans. I'm Susie, the regent of the Idaho Nampa chapter, and this is Tracy Glatz, our vice regent. And tonight we're here to celebrate Constitution Week by the ringing of bells. And the United States Constitution stands as a testament to the tenacity of the Americans through the history to maintain their liberties and freedoms and to assure those unalienable rights for every American. The tradition of celebrating Constitution Week did start with the Daughters of the American Revolution, and in 1955 there was a petition to Congress to set aside September 17th to the 23rd as an annual dedication of the observation of that. And as you stated, that the U.S. Congress signed public into law on October 7th, 1956 by President Dwight D. Eisenhower. So we appreciate him. The Daughters of the American Revolution during this week emphasize citizens' responsibility for protecting and defending the Constitution, informing people of the constitutional basis and the great country and heritage that it represents, and to encourage the study of historical events. Constitution Week is a great time to learn more about the importance of documents of this country and to celebrate the freedoms that they've given us. At this time, would you please take your bells that we have for you?
Stand for this one?
And if you'd like to stand, that would be great. And we will ring bells for about 30 seconds in honor of the Constitution. And we'd also like you to remember to do this on September 17th at 2 o'clock for a national bell ringing.
At 2 in the morning or?
2 p.m. It's 1400 for you military people. All right, here we go. All right, we'll say that's 30 seconds. We thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the next item on the agenda, Amy, come on forward. Would you like to read this why don't you read the proclamation?
I would love to. Do I get my picture too? Because I'd really love
You know, who's going to take the picture? I bet we could get the chief back there with the
Okay.
camera.
You have to take your mask down.
Oh,
I'm going to take your photo.
you want me to
Here we
read?
go.
You usually read the.
I know I do, but I would like for you to read it tonight.
Okay, here we go. Whereas the census is mandated by the United States Constitution every 10 years, and whereas the goal of the United States Census is to ensure a complete and accurate count of everyone living in the United States once, only once, and in the right place. And whereas more than $675 billion per year in federal funding is allocated to states and communities based on census data, and whereas an accurate count is vital to ensuring our state and cities receive annual funds to improve transportation, schools, hospitals, public works, and other vital programs. And whereas census data helps shape where to locate schools, offices, and stores. And whereas census data ensures fair congressional representation in the United States House of Representatives and in redistricting state legislatures, county and city councils, and school and voting districts. And whereas we all benefit from a complete and accurate count and have a civic responsibility to take the 2020 census before it closes September 30th, 2020. Now, therefore, the mayor authorizes September 10th to be take 10 to take the 2020 census on September 10th. So thank you. Do I get to keep this? 'Cause
Yes,
that
you
would be
do,
great.
and
Oh,
Amy,
okay.
thank you. This, and you know what, thank you, and go ahead and share. This is important, very important.
It is, and so September 30th, thanks to our, I don't know, I'll put this back there. Thanks to our friends at Compass who've been really great partners with the census. They have helped support a lot of the cities. As you know, we didn't budget any official money to help promote people taking it. And so we're asking every business, if you are associated with the business, the Napa School District and NNU, any of those businesses, we really need every business, if they can do 10 minutes on the 10th to encourage their employees to take the census, it's really impactful for our community. And we only get one chance every 10 years to be counted, so.
And you've encouraged the chamber to help us get that word out, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So Mayor, but you told Amy, the NNU students that are not living in this vicinity but in the dorm, they can be counted or cannot be counted?
Yeah, they just need to be counted once. So whether they've been counted by their
So
family.
we can
or-
ask them if they've been counted as far as in their home
Yes.
areas, okay.
And it's almost $1,500 per person per year, so it's $15,000 for our community over the next 10 years.
Okay, and Mayor, and I thought there was a chance of an extension. Are we still, is
know,
that still
they-
being considered?
It's a good question. So they were going to, I think they were going to do October, and then they rolled it back to the end of this month. And then it'll be done.
Okay, thanks.
So
Amy, thank you. Yes.
Amy, could you hold the sign up, please?
this other side?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Thanks.
And we have this in Spanish, and they're outside City Hall. I do have some extra signs if anybody would like them for their business.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I forgot earlier, I did mention Rhonda and Stephen Kren, but Stephen Kren is former council member that was with us this evening that has stepped out, and so it was nice to have him here. So the next item on the agenda, let me get back to the right list. Actually, this is where a Napa resident wishing to speak on an agenda or non-agenda item, and there isn't anyone besides the Salvation Army that had originally signed up. Thank you, Debbie. So then we're moving on to mayor and council comments, and I'd like to start with introducing Casey. Casey, come on forward. This is Casey Moulton, and she is an intern in our office. And Casey was part of the Mayor's Teen Council, and she's assisting us in the Mayor's Teen Council this year, and we have greatly appreciated her presence in our office. It's been awesome. So it's so exciting when you get a scholarship, you're off to school, you choose your school, and you're here. So, it's a little anticlimactic. Casey, you were what, number 22 in the nation? Was that correct, in debate?
Yeah, I was.
That's a pretty big deal. That's pretty impressive. Yeah. So I've got some notes here, but maybe you would like to say where you're going to be studying and what you're going to be studying.
Well, I'll be attending Whitman College in Walla Walla, Washington, and I'm currently attending there, but it's the Zoom version, not the real, not like real school. Right now, I'm still kind of doing whatever I feel like when it comes to classes, but the plan, hopefully, is to double major in politics and film and media.
She has been a great asset in our office this short term that she's gotten to be here. We've loved her. She's done a great job. Obviously, because Kristen moved over into emergency management, we've had a void in our office. And so we had a prior intern that you met.
Right.
And then he was off to visit colleges. He's moving into his senior year, and Casey stepped in. And so it's been great to have you.
It's been a privilege.
So Mayor Casey, in case you get tired of virtual, NNU is doing live. So
I'll keep that in mind.
blessings on you, yeah.
Well, thank you. It's been a privilege to serve the office, and I'm grateful to take what I've learned and use it moving forward.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming tonight. So I have one other quick mention, and that is that we have hired the replacement. The gentleman's name is Corey. He's a graduate of Nampa Christian, NNU, Bachelor in Public Relations. Boise State has his Master of Arts in Organizational Communication. He was already a city employee. He's a lifeguard at the rec center since 2014 and head lifeguard since 2015. While he was going to school, he'll be starting in our office on the 14th.
Corey,
next
what's
Monday.
the disclosing his last name?
I don't know.
Okay.
You know, candidly, I'm sorry, you know,
Tough
and
one.
I have to say, my team made the hire. I was not involved. Say that again? Gaona.
Oh, Corey
Gaona.
Yeah, good job, good choice. Steph.
Okay, thank you. We stole him. So,
Is that Ruben's son?
yes,
Oh, no wonder.
yeah,
Oh, cool.
okay.
Yeah, he's a good
So,
man.
good. The other thing that I'd like to, on Mayor and Council comments, if I could just real quickly provide a COVID update, because we always do a COVID update, and I'll try to be really fast.
Mayor, I keep interrupting, I'm sorry. Did we approve consent agenda
Yes,
already?
didn't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm totally, Victor and I were totally, we must have been yakking over here, okay. Sorry.
Thank you.
Well, it's kind of been a long day and a long meetings before, so that's fine. So, COVID update, just a quick mention on the COVID front. I visited with Southwest District Health today to Nikki Zog, and just trying to get an idea of where we are with the pulse of COVID. And, you know, we've been trending down. We've kind of plateaued, and the pause is what's going to happen with Labor Day. So I don't know what's going to happen with Labor Day, but it is where it is. We are still strongly encouraging people to do their part in reducing COVID. It's extremely important, and one reason it's important is that we need our kids back in school. So the school board met this evening, and I had word that they were going to be voting on some type of a resolution, and evidently it's online, and so we passed that resolution out to our city council members, and basically they're saying that, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it's to get the kids back in school. They want to see Canyon County move from red to orange so the kids can go back to school. And it's, be it resolved, the Board of Trustees urges the mayor to take all necessary actions to reduce the spread of the virus within city limits. The Nampa City Council to take all necessary actions to reduce the spread of the virus within city limits. The Canyon County Board of Commissioners to do the same within the county, and Southwest District Health Governing Board to take all necessary actions to reduce the spread of the virus in Canyon County. And the Health Board to review the metrics established for determining health alerts for reasonableness and for its recommendations about school closures. And for the Southwest District Health Department Governing Board to expand its health levels reporting to include categories for cities and school districts. And the last one is the Southwest District Health Department Governing Board improve the information provided to Nampa School District patrons and others in the Southwest District and how the health levels are determined. You know, the one thing I want to say, during this season of COVID, it has been extremely challenging for everyone. It's challenging for the school district. It's challenging for parents. It's challenging for elected officials, whether you're a school board member, city council, or mayor. What we all want is the same, and that's what's best for our community, and that is that we have a safe and healthy community where people prosper. That means our economy needs to be going. That means our kids need to be in school, but we need to have a safe environment for the kids to go back to school. And the one thing that I want to encourage us all through this process, and I've said it before and I'm going to say it again, respect one another, support one another, and be kind. So the COVID has brought out the best in some situations, and in other situations, it's brought out the worst in us, in how we treat each other that have a differing opinion and view. And we have got to respect one another, but it's going to take us all doing our part to get those numbers where they need to be. The numbers are still coming from gatherings, but they're not necessarily big gatherings. They're gatherings of family groups when it's it's the extended family group that doesn't live together. We still have a lot of that happening. And then and the community spread, because people are saying they don't know where they got it. And that's my conversation today with Nikki Zog. So we all need to just do our part, and that's my message. And then let's be kind to each other, support one another, and respect one another where we are in the process. So that is my update as it relates to COVID. This is also an opportunity for council to provide updates. Are there any updates from council?
Mayor Kling,
Yes.
I feel like I'm going to channel my Councilman Bruner here by reading something, but I think it's important. I was able to join more than 25 Nampa School District teachers, administrators, pastors, and community members last night to pray for our schools, our kids, and each other. It was powerful to see the support for one another and a shared prayer for our community to unite. The message last night was clear. These people love their job, they love each other, and they dedicate their lives to impacting the lives of our kids. They want to be in the classroom. They want the halls filled with the sounds of laughter and excited voices. They want to return to normal. But they also want to be sure that when kids return to the classroom, it's safe and it offers consistency. The Nampa School Board has had to make difficult decisions. Those decisions have not come without much deliberation, discussion, and sometimes tears. Based upon his vote to delay in-person learning until public health guidance recommends doing so, and beginning sports, until kids can return to the classroom, Trustee Mike Kipp, an NNU professor and a community pastor, is facing a recall effort. Mike's a truly kind and a decent person with an incredible heart for our kids and community, and he deserves better. The retaliatory culture rearing its head is deeply concerning. The increasing normalization of attacking those with whom we disagree is disturbing. I encourage those leading the recall effort to reconsider. Our republic is strengthened when different viewpoints are shared and respected. Discussion and discretion are powerful bridge builders, and I believe that we're better than this.
Thank you.
Mayor, I'll just second him. I know Pastor Kipp well, and Professor Kipp, and a fine gentleman, and he votes from his heart. So,
I think the one thing that we know is that during this COVID time, no matter what decision we make, somebody's mad at us.
Yeah.
Right?
and actually,
And-
we still can like him. I don't. He knows I don't agree with him, but he is a good man.
A
Respect
fine
him. So,
human
yeah.
and a follower
Yeah.
of Christ.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any other comments or updates? Okay. So regarding staff communications, Tom, if you don't mind, I'm going to go through because you're going to be here. I'm going to put staff communications off. Is that okay? There you are. Thank you. So we're going to move to item 5.1 on the agenda, and this is the appointment of Christina Jenkins to the Nampa Arts and Historic Preservation Commission. And is Christina? Hi. Thank you for joining us this evening, and thank you for your willingness to serve on historic preservation. And Rick, would you like to introduce this and tell us a little bit? And on the next one, too.
I'm more excited about, so these next two, and hopefully you get a chance to meet Christina. She's full of energy. She's been, I'll let her introduce herself and what she's been doing for the youth in our community. Karina is the next one on the action item for the Housing Authority Board. She's unable to make it tonight. She had a class for CWI tonight, and she wanted to be here, but due to the conflict, but I hope you don't hold that against her. She also is an energetic gal who's well suited for that role and comes recommended by Andy Rodriguez and the board. But we did interview a couple people for this post, the arts and historic preservation, and Christina just jumped out. She has a love for the community, for the arts, and for the youth, and she'll benefit the community. Is it okay if I bring her
Yes.
up briefly? Christina, why don't you come up and just tell them about yourself? You'll do a better job than I can.
Hi, I am Christina Jenkins. So you can see my face.
Yes.
And I have lived in Nampa for almost 21 years, and I just recently resigned as the orchestra teacher at Idaho Arts Charter School after being there for 12 years, and raised my 4 children here, and we've been actively involved in the community. And as a music teacher, I've been involved in the arts already, and I have several friends that are also on the commission, so I'm really looking forward to this and really honored to have been, well, I guess I'm not approved yet, but I'm really excited to be here, and I'm to serve the city that has been my home.
And thank you for your willingness to serve. It's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes,
I know her personally. She's a wonderful person, so
that's good.
I couldn't be more supportive.
You gonna
Thank
make a
you.
motion
Make
there?
a motion then.
Would you like to make the motion to approve the appointment?
Yes, I'll make a motion to approve the appointment to the
Arts and
Art
Historic,
Historic Preservation Commission.
second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Bruner?
Yes.
Mucci?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
You're on.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. And item 5.2 is the appointment of Katrina Martinez to the Nampa Housing Authority Board.
So moved. So, second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mucci?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Bruner?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
We're going to move to 5.5 on the agenda, and this is the action item to authorize the mayor to sign the resolution authorizing an increase in rates for Republic Services. And Rochelle Klein has come just so she could personally talk to us. And Rochelle, it's always good to see you.
Thank you, Mayor. and
Thank you for
Council.
all you do.
Thank you. And just for the record, Rochelle Klein, 2130 West Franklin Road, Meridian, Idaho. And thank you, Mayor and Council, for the opportunity to come before you tonight. So we've been your partner for a long time, and we got kind of comfortable with just relying on the contract. And this year we sent just a straight up sterile kind of letter saying, this is the CPI, thanks a lot. And the mayor sent that back right away and said, we need to know the story around this. So I thought, well, this is a good reset for us, and we really appreciate the opportunity to come before you tonight and talk a little bit about what we do and why we're asking for the 0.62% increase in trash rates for the city. So we have had the contract here for a very long time, and it's more than a contract to me. It's more than a contract to all of our drivers, I can tell you that. We're deeply involved. Most of the drivers that live in here in the community, and they appreciate the work that they get to do for all of you. So but before I go too far, I want to introduce our new general manager. His name is Bob Bennett, and he actually lives here in Canyon County. I think it's Nampa, but unincorporated, yes. Canyon County, Nampa. So he just moved over here to be our general manager from the Seattle area, and he seems very, very excited to be in Idaho. He's been pining to move this direction for a long time, so we're grateful he's here. But with that, I just want to cover a few highlights on our request to for this price increase, and generally it's year to year, and it's the same index, which is kind of the all items index. It's pretty general, and we review the same 12-month period every year, and that generally trends between 2% and 3%, and that's the way it was trending before COVID. And there was just this blip in time, and that's when Nampus hit. So it went from 2 to 3%, and then it dropped down to under 1%. And that happened to be the month that the Nampa index was pulled each year. So what that translates to on the residential side is 9 cents a household per month. And with that, this last year, as you can probably imagine, our expenses did go up significantly more than even 1%. And a lot of that was driven by the competitive labor market. For years, we've enjoyed a really solid workforce at we thought a pretty solid, livable wage. But now we're competing with, Amazon and lots of other companies that are coming in. And so we saw over 7% increase in labor to retain our drivers. And there's a huge benefit to retaining the same people in the positions. We have a one driver, one truck, one route policy, and we like them to be in the same neighborhood over, for many years. We want them to come and stay and work for us and then retire with us is our goal. So anyway, so we do try to be competitive and keep our people. And so that's really what our largest increase was. Another increase was disposal. As people stayed home during this pandemic, they were cleaning, and you probably may have done that yourselves. And so we saw an increase of trash at the curb, and we pay disposal under this contract, and we've always built it around a certain amount, about a ton of waste per family per year, or per household per year. And we saw that really spike up above that during this COVID time. And a lot of people shifted their work from their office to home. So we're seeing an increase in waste, not just from cleaning and purging, but we're also from people now working at home. And so that kind of gives you, and we don't know how long that'll stay. That we thought it might just be a spike and then a drop, and we're seeing it kind of trend higher. So I'm not sure if that's going to stay or if that'll eventually drop back down. A couple other things I guess we wanted to highlight. The recycling market didn't recover this year, which is not totally surprising. But what did happen is we became more resilient as a country. So we, for years, relied on the Chinese market to buy all of our materials and manufacture goods, and then we bought them back from China. And we're really shifting now. We're trying to become much more resilient. So we have, you guys stepped forward and really helped with the recycling markets when they were low. And we're still upside down about $175,000 in this contract, but what we're seeing is the markets recover, and they're not foreign markets. We're investing here. We have just had preliminary meetings with a company called Bifusion that is looking at moving here, and I'm not sure where in this area in the Treasure Valley, but they're manufacturer of essentially like Lego building blocks and they're non-flammable, and they're used in test markets to build structures like houses and sheds and things like that. So we're looking at the plastics going there instead of anywhere abroad. We're also seeing paper mills come back to life here. And so even though it's been a painful few years and we're seeing sluggish markets and we're having to subsidize markets, we're going to emerge stronger. And that's healthy for us, I think, in the long run, to be more resilient and self-reliant. Finally, I did want to also talk about the alternative fuel tax credit. So we've, for the last several years, we've had what's called an alternative fuels tax credit. So we run a compressed natural gas fleet here in Nampa, and it's not just compressed natural gas. We source renewable natural gas. About 95% of the gas we burn is renewable. So it's sourced from things like landfills and dairy digesters and wastewater treatment facilities. And we've actually talked with Nampa, the city of Nampa, about buying your wastewater treatment gas, if there's a bad visual for you. But for us, it's fuel. And so there's real value to us, but that's also using methane that's already present in the environment constructively. So by doing that, we have had historically, for the last several years, a tax credit from the federal government. And that comes back to us. And what we firmly believe, and we've told you before, is that you pay for fuel in your rates. And so when we get this tax credit back, we pass it back to you guys. And so this last year, that was $105,000. And we've seen that grow over the years as we've added we've retired old diesel trucks and added natural gas trucks. So it's just under $200,000 now that we've been able to give back for the city to use. And it's my understanding the city has done, of course, in my opinion, really great things. So the grocery shuttle for people in North Nampa, and then this last year to help, some of the money was used to help offset utility costs for people that were struggling with paying their utility bills. And so I want to say thank you for your reinvestment in your community. And other than that, I guess we're deeply committed to your success as a city, whether it's the chamber or the rec center or the city itself. We are here for you as partners. And so if you guys need more detail, then this is kind of high level, and we can definitely share more if you guys would like more, but we appreciate your consideration.
Mayor, I don't often make motions for increase, but I think they're doing a great job. Republic is. I'm going to make that motion. One request after this vote is taken, if we'll allow this young lady just for 2 minutes about this young man that Make-A-Wish. So if you can just say the most exciting thing about that, I'd appreciate that after the vote's taken. So I will make the motion that we accept this increase.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez?
No.
Levi?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Mucci?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes. So,
Okay, so
all
now
right,
I'm
Mayor, if she can
curious.
just
Yes.
take just a couple minutes.
Thank you for that opportunity. Yes, something magical happened to us. I know it was Leo's magical day, but we were contacted by Make-A-Wish just about a month ago. Did any of you see did you see the Seven Hero piece?
Yes.
It was pretty touching. We got to live that live. So about a month ago, we were contacted by Make-A-Wish. There was a little 3.5-year-old who was new to this area. His dad was, and mom just moved here from Georgia, and he was diagnosed with a brain tumor a year ago. And he, his wish was to be a garbage man. And so when Make-A-Wish reached out to us, we just took that and ran with it. And he had a uniform and a name tag and a hard hat and gloves. And he got there early and got into our shop and worked with our maintenance manager. And the cutest thing, I mean, he just got there and he looked at the big truck and he said, "What makes this roll?" And I thought that was a cute opener. But he can, you know, his parents were so great, and just watching him work, he got up and was ready for work, they said, early. And we had, you know, Make-A-Wish said it's rare that people, you can be someone, you can meet someone, you can go somewhere, you can get something. And they said it's very rare that kids want to be someone. And so, and it's even harder sometimes to get parents to support when the kids want to be someone, and especially when someone says, "I want to be a trash man." And so it was pretty special, I think, for all of us. I think these guys can testify to that too. We took him to the landfill and the recycling center, so he got to look at the line of recyclables, and we just had his whole day filled as a garbage man. And he fell asleep with his waffle and whipped cream in the limo on the way home, which was his. He could have any food to finish his day, and he chose an IHOP waffle with whipped cream, which is pretty cute. So thank you for bringing that up. That was probably as special for our team as it was to his family.
And Mayor, if I can add, because it kind of, I have a 3-year-old grandson living next door to me, and at 7 o'clock, you guys come through with the recycling, and about every morning, on Thursday morning, he grabs mom and says, "We need to get out there before the truck." I hear the truck. So I think, my guess is that happens throughout the city, but your driver, I've not met him, but he makes a point of just making sure he you know, acknowledges.
In your neighborhood. Okay.
Yes.
I'll
So
have to
that's
find out
Josiah.
who that is.
Josiah, yeah.
Thank you for that feedback.
So,
I think
very
our
neat.
drivers, when we talk about drivers staying and getting to know their customers, they really know the kids and where they're located, and they really appreciate being in the same neighborhoods like that. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you,
for
guys. I
mentioning
really
it.
appreciate it.
Michelle, we appreciate you. Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Welcome. I'm glad that you chose Nampa, even though it's in the incorporated area. I'm glad that you chose our community. So welcome. Welcome.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you so much. We're going to move on to item 5.9 on the agenda and 5.10. So Tom, you'll get to be on next. And 5.9 is to authorize the Public Works Director to sign a sidewalk deferral requested by Robert Chopke and David Staker for the property located at 5005 Feather Creek Lane. Hi, guys. It's good to see you. So who's going to, are you on this one?
Where did you put those on here?
Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, if we can get things to pull up. There we go. Okay, Mayor and Council, we have a couple of deferral agreements tonight. The first is on Feather Creek Lane. This 5-acre parcel here on Star Road north of Cherry. They recently did a subdivision to split the 5 acres into 3 parcels. As part of that subdivision development, the requirement was that they, at the time of the house being built adjacent to Star Road, that they installed a sidewalk. When the contractor was notified of that, property owner, they went to the highway district to request a permit to be able to put that sidewalk in. Because that right-of-way is the highway district's, they indicated, and we've confirmed that they indicated they do not want to see that sidewalk emplaced within their right-of-way. And so based on that, the property owner has requested a deferral agreement so that they don't have to put it in at this point because the highway district will not allow them to.
Okay. Are there any questions?
Mayor,
Yes.
Daniel, at the point where they are allowed to put the sidewalk in, will they still be footing the bill, or will that come to the city?
The deferral agreement places the responsibility to in place the improvement on the property owner at the time that it is improved.
Thank you.
Okay. So any questions?
I make a motion that we approve the deferral.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Mucci?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Bruner?
Yes.
Okay. 5:10 on the agenda. This is to authorize the Public Works Director to sign another sidewalk deferral requested by David Thomason, property owner located at 1318 Lone Star Road.
Mayor and council, the requested property is located on Lone Star Road between Midland and Bluestone to the west. It's an old existing county parcel that was annexed into the city limits when the Springbrook subdivision was brought in. You can see north of that is the new lots developed with the Springbrook subdivision. They are currently building a new home on that property. The city code requires that on an arterial street, they are only required to do the sidewalk. They are not required to do any curb gutter or pavement widening. In part of the review process, they were notified that they would have to put in the sidewalk. They had concerns with that due to the mature landscaping that's existing there, some irrigation improvements. They've provided an additional letter to you that I believe Debbie placed in front of you earlier that talks about the cost estimates that they've received for the cost of those improvements. The items that are considered in the city code for the deferrals when they can be automatic are whether it's on an arterial roadway, which this one is, so it doesn't meet that. It also doesn't meet the requirement that no other curb gutter sidewalk, or in this case sidewalk, is located adjacent to the property. You can see the Granite Basin subdivision to the west has a sidewalk coming up to the property line. But based on the landscaping, the mature landscaping, the cost, they have requested that they be allowed to enter into a deferral agreement rather than put those improvements in today. Engineering has recommended that based on the fact that there is an existing sidewalk there and adjacent, that those improvements be put in. The property owners are here if you have any questions for them, and have indicated that they would be willing to answer any questions you may have.
Mayor Kling.
Yes.
Daniel, in looking at the pictures that have been provided to us, by mature vegetation, it doesn't appear that there's actually any trees, but more shrubs. Am I missing something? And the fence would also have to be relocated?
So, let me zoom in here a little bit closer, Councilman Haverfield. So the sidewalk would be placed, currently the sidewalk in Granite Basin is located in their common lot, so the transition to in the right-of-way would be needed. Looking at the location of the trees, I guess that depends on your definition of a tree versus a shrub. It does look like the larger tree that is pictured in here is certainly behind where the sidewalk would be located and would not need to come out.
Daniel, the fence, where does it fall on your...
The fence is within the public right-of-way here, probably about 10 feet within the public right-of-way.
So would it be relocated to the property line?
It would need to be relocated to the property line in order to put the sidewalk in, yes.
So again, if the sidewalk is a meandering sidewalk like is to the west, it could maybe be put in to avoid some of the shrubbery, possibly that would be impacted by this.
Mayor and Council, that is possible. The aerial photo isn't quite clear enough to be able to say exactly, but that is possible.
Right. Because it's not a linear sidewalk. It is meant to be meandering or more organic, so,
Mayor and Council, it is allowed to be a meandering or a straight, whichever.
okay. Thank you.
Daniel, is to the property to the east, is there any sidewalk improvement on that property?
Once again, those, Mayor, those are properties that were existing in the county until they annexed in with the development that surrounds behind them, and so there is no sidewalk on that property.
Is it annexed into the city? And
I don't believe that one is. Let me.
And then the one further east and then further east. It appears that the sidewalk terminates at this property. Is that correct?
Currently, it does, Mayor.
Okay. So if you were to allow a deferral in that it's going to terminate right at the end of their property, what happens then? And what was the request, just to refresh my mind, if they asked for a deferral? Could that deferral be put in place until which time the other properties are developed?
So, Mayor,
To continue?
the deferral agreement, the request was to defer sidewalk improvements along their entire frontage. So if they were to be required to put the sidewalk in, it would move the terminus of the sidewalk from their west property line to their east property line. It would not extend it any farther than that. The deferral agreement requires that on notice from the city that they in place that sidewalk. When we look at those deferral agreements, generally speaking, we call them in if there is adjacent development that is happening that would finish out that sidewalk, or if there's a city road project that would be going along there to complete those improvements.
Did you have that discussion with the Thomasons?
I spoke to them a little before council. I had not spoken to them previously. Assistant City Engineer Caleb Leclerc has spoken to them previously. We indicated that, I believe he indicated to them that the deferral agreement does push it down the road, and it is an unspecified time period of when we would call that in.
Okay.
So, Mayor, if I may, so what, I mean, I realize we don't have a crystal ball, but what's the prediction of these other two properties of being annexed in the next few years?
I would say that Mayor, Councilman Brunner, I would say that it is probably unlikely unless they need sewer or water service. If their well or septics were to fail, that would trigger them coming into the city. Merely coming into the city, however, would not trigger them needing to put in that sidewalk.
So when I look at it, I've seen a lot of sidewalk deferrals, and I have to say one of the challenges that we face in the community is sidewalks and safety. That said, whether the sidewalk terminates on the east side of their property or the west side of the property, it still terminates. And it is a considerable financial hardship, although it will be at some point, because it will have to be brought in. But to force it in right now when it's going to end on the other side, to me, as for a citizen, I would recommend that we defer it until which time the other sidewalk is put in and required at that time, rather than right now.
Mayor, I'll make the motion that we allow the deferral as stated.
I'll second that.
Is there any further discussion?
Mary Kling, if I could. One of the things that I look at this whole project is that the cost to the residences, and I don't know that between $25,000 and $21,000 is the benefit to anybody. So that's the reason why I support your Councilman Brunner's referral.
Thank you. And at some point, it will have to be done. I think you
Right.
clearly recognize that, but right now, it's not anything on the east side. So, hearing no more discussion, roll call.
Machi?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Haverfield?
No.
Bauer?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Okay. So, it is 7 o'clock, 1 minute till. And we do, after public hearings, we will go back to staff communications with Tom Points and then pick up 5.3, 5.4 and go on from there. But at this time, we will move into public hearings. And our first public hearing is public hearing item 6.1. This is an action item, and it's a variance of sections 1022-6B in the Community Business Zoning District at 4104 Garrity Boulevard and 1010 North 39th Street to reduce the required number of parking spaces from 168, which includes 6 ADA spaces, to 152 for Canyon Terrace Apartments. This is an affordable housing project totaling 81 dwelling units for the housing company representing Thomas Haygood Living Trust. Is the applicant with us here this evening?
Yes, he's in the back.
Hi, would you like to come forward? So as the applicant, you're going to have the opportunity to come forward, state your name and your address, tell us about the project. We'll see if there's any questions, and then at a public hearing, you'll have the opportunity to come back at the conclusion of the public hearing and answer any questions that have come up during that time or respond to any comments.
All right. Well, thank you. I'm Blake Jumper with the Housing Company, 565 West Myrtle Street in Boise. To give a little bit of background on this project and our company, we're a nonprofit affordable housing developer and property management company. We've been building affordable housing throughout the state since the early 90s. Over the past few years, starting in early 2019, we had community partners that reached out to us with a big need for more affordable housing in Nampa. I think we can all agree affordable housing is needed everywhere. But this is one region in Canyon County that we hadn't put a lot of units in the recent years. And so I went out and started looking at property and was looking at about 3 or 4 different pieces of land, this being one of them. And it's difficult, the complexity behind these affordable housing projects. You know, we're using tax credits, home funding, as well as a lot of other community partnership grants and what have you. And a piece of that, and why we went and decided to move forward with this piece of property, is it falls in a qualified census tract. That's a boost, gives us a little bit of boost in our funding. And so that really kicked off the process, and we got this piece of property under contract, and at that time I started communicating with the city. One of those was I knew that there was a desire by the city to add improvements along 39th Street and Comstock, which basically surround the property. Come to find out, the right-of-ways that were being imposed on 39th Street were about 50 foot from center line, about 28 foot from center line on Comstock. So although the property was being offered as 4 acres or so, the buildable area was really only about 3.3 acres. So as we developed our site plan, I'm getting long-winded, and went through that process, we realized quickly that to get that number of units on the property was going to be difficult while also achieving the parking count. So our first roundabout, through the design phase, I think we had about 130 parking spaces. That wasn't going to work. So I went to the Nampa Meridian Irrigation District, talked to them about piping the irrigation ditch, or Dewey Lateral, that runs along the south, the entire southern property line. And they were in approval of that. So our parking actually encroaches on that easement. Going through that process, we were able to pick up an additional close to 30, I think it was maybe 26 spaces going through that process. It's not inexpensive to do that, but it's the only way to achieve our parking count. And so at the end of the day, where we ended up was 152 parking spaces, and that leaves us about 16 spaces short of the requirement. We shifted buildings, we moved things all over the place trying to squeeze in that parking, and we just couldn't do it. We could pick up some additional space if we removed things like a playground and other amenities, although I wouldn't like to do that. So at this point, our architectural design is about 100% complete. We're ready to submit for building permits at this point. And the big push right now is to pipe that Dewey Lateral on the southern portion of the site there's a time constraint there. When irrigation's cut off in late October, you got to hit the ground running, get that thing piped in before it's turned back on in the spring. So if we miss that opportunity, if this request were to be denied, it'd probably push us out into next year because it'd require a site redesign. But that's our overall request. We're 16 spaces short. And to go back and give a little description on the project, all 81 units are affordable housing. So this is rent restricted, true income restricted affordable housing, all 81 units. Some of our partnerships include Trinity Health, which is the parent organization of St. Alphonsus Medical Group. Idaho Housing and Finance Association is bringing over $1 million in grant funds to the project, as well as some CDBG dollars from the city. So that's my long-winded explanation. Thanks for listening.
I have a quick question. Is this the project that you also have some homeless housing for the Nampa School District?
That's correct. Yeah, that's 15 of the 81 units.
Yeah, thank you. Are there any questions?
Mayor Kling,
Yes.
a couple of quick questions. We don't have in our packet the match line for C1.2. Is that in your, Rodney, do you have that in your packet?
I don't.
So we don't have a full site plan to look at, so it's,
I have a site plan on the presentation that I'll show.
okay, we just have half of it. The other portion, it says see sheet C1.2. So if you can check on that, that would be important for me to look at.
That might have been my mistake when I provided.
And the second question is, the units themselves, are these three-story buildings?
They are.
Okay. So 81 units, three-story. If the decision is not to grant your request, you could eliminate a unit or two, which every unit's 2 spaces, so that, plus the handicap parking. So anyway, it's just a question. How big are the buildings?
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mayor?
Yes.
Thank you. Sir, you had mentioned that this was rent restricted, age restricted, is that correct?
Sorry, rent restricted and income restricted.
And income restricted, okay. And the reason I'm asking is because we had a local facility built with funds, and it was supposed to be, I think, affordable for a certain age group, if I remember correctly. And maybe within the last month or so, I've received emails with concern as to maybe it's not living up to the expectations as to what we as a council understood or the NDC understood, et cetera. So is this something that's going to be enforced as far as the rent and the income restricted?
Yes, it will be enforced. So as part of our tax credit requirements, Idaho Housing and Finance Association acts as what they call the issuer of the tax exempt bonds, as well as the tax credits themselves. And it's a very, very in-depth process of review of tax returns and criminal background checks to verify income and just overall past history. And then rents are set as part of our funding requirements. So if we were to deviate from that, what in turn happens is we lose our funding. So.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, if I may, just a follow-up to Councilman Levi. So is there a maximum occupancy for each unit that's
There is.
enforced?
There is, and off the top of my head, there's a calculation that we use for that. but
Okay,
there is.
and I'm just curious, there's an on-site manager that would be aware and enforces that if folks moved in after the fact of the initial residence?
Correct, and we do see that from time to time. And that,
Yeah, I've heard a lot of that, so.
yeah, and we
okay.
will have a full-time dedicated on-site maintenance person who will actually live at the property.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Good presentation.
Thanks.
Any further questions? Thank you so much.
Thank
We'll
you.
have you back.
Okay.
All right, Mayor and Council, Rodney Ashby, Director of Planning and Zoning. I am not going to go over all the requested actions. I think the applicant did a good job of that, and as well as the purpose, but the one final thing that I think is critical that we share on the purpose, or his explanation in the packet you received, was that they did a survey of other developments of low income or assisted living or assisted dwellings, financial assisted dwellings that they manage, and those developments had a lower percentage of parking utilized than other types of developments. So I thought that was important that you take note of that. The comprehensive plan is commercial. You can see that on the screen there. The existing zoning is BC, or community business. The surrounding land uses, as you can see, it's surrounded by multiple uses, including light industrial, heavy industrial across Garrity to the south, and then, of course, commercial immediately next to it on the east and the southwest. Some of the specific land uses there are, to the north is professional construction services. It's light industrial zoning. There are also some existing 3 single-family homes surrounded by industrial use. And then to the south is, of course, Garrity Boulevard, but also the Drive Happy Auto Sales and Repair Auto Dealership, to the BC Community Business, and of course across the street the Auto Salvage Salvage Yard. And I think I said to the south across the street was Drive Happy. That's actually right here. That's not across the street. To the east is the Wendy's restaurant, BC zoning. To the west is a vacant land, IL light industrial zoning. There are utilities in the close proximity to the property. The farthest connection would be that irrigation line, pressurized irrigation. Transportation access, when we went through the process for the conditional use permit, the access would be off of 39th Street and Comstock. I'll show you some of that in just a minute. Just a little background, I've got some street views here. This top one is looking southeast from the corner of 39th Street and Comstock, so right up here. And then this is just to the south of that, looking straight across. So planning and zoning history, January 16th of 1996, the city of Nampa annexed these properties into the city of Nampa with the BC zoning. June 15th, 2020, the Building and Site Design Standards Committee, or Design Review, reviewed the project, and it included and approved it, including a condition that the applicant revise the landscape plans and site plans to show a pedestrian connection to Garrity Boulevard. So you'll see that in just a minute. June 23rd, 2020, the Nampa Planning and Zoning Commission approved a conditional use permit for multiple family dwellings in a BC zone. So again, that's where we approve the land use on the property. Typically, that's where you'll see all the drawings, the site plans, everything that you'll review at that time. Before you today, though, is the variance for the parking. And so I did include the original site plan, which shows kind of the layout of the property in relation to the land around it. And you'll see here a change on this next drawing that I'll bring up in just a second. Here is the connection that was required by Planning and Zoning Commission as well as Design Review, a pedestrian connection to Garrity Boulevard. So that was a significant change, and this is the landscape plan that was submitted.
Mayor Kling, quick question, Rodney. Why wasn't this information included in our packet?
Typically, a variance doesn't, we don't require that a site plan be laid out for a variance, and so after I reviewed the staff report again, I just decided to include this because it just added information. But typically, we wouldn't provide all this detail in a variance unless it's pertinent to the discussion, and so again, probably just
with all due respect, I think it would be pertinent to have full information to be able to make a determination on to either support or not support whether it met the requirements of a variance. There isn't enough information in our packet, so now I'm going off of what the screen shows me. So in the future, would you include more information, please?
Absolutely. Sometimes that variance, since we don't require all those details up front, we could perhaps change our variance so that it provides a full detail site plan, if that would be helpful. But it's on a case-by-case basis right now, so we're happy to look at that, though.
Mayor, Rodney, you gave us a partial site plan, not a full site plan. That's what the point I'm making. That's really what I would like to have seen.
Okay.
So in the future, I would like to see the full extent of what the Planning and Zoning Commission's looking at least.
Mayor, this is not pertaining to this vote necessarily, but I'm a little concerned. So we will see a site plan later. So we're fighting over asphalt for parking. My concern is there's going to be children in this complex. And so just the amount of real estate and so on, that there's going to be a play area or something of that sort. I realize that's a whole nother ball game down the line, but I'm just concerned with this, the number of units. So I'm just putting this on record that as far as the parking, I guess I don't have a challenge, but it sounds like there's going to be some other challenges. If there's no recreation area or whatever and children in this complex, then I would not be voting in favor of it.
So, Mayor and Council, I need to probably clarify something. This does not come before the City Council with a site plan. So what happens is the zoning code allows this type of use to exist in the BC zone with a conditional use permit. So that's the approval of land use. And that conditional use permit gets considered by planning and zoning. So the only thing that you're considering right now, the only thing that would hold this project up is the required parking. If they were to come in with the needed parking, the exact needed parking required by code, you would never even see this. So that's why it's a little different. You're not considering it for a plat. We're not dividing up the land or anything. They're doing a use that is permitted by code with a conditional use permit.
Mayor?
Yes.
Rodney, could we confirm, I think there was a playground included in this?
There is.
And then also, is street parking permitted? It looked like the shoulders are pretty wide there, so if there was...
Street parking would not be allowed on those roadways.
Okay. Thank you.
So I have another question, though. It is so close to a lot of parking, right? It's just owned by St. Alphonsus, right? It's very close to a big open parking lot. So I guess if there was overage, is that something that could be pursued is with St. Alphonsus?
The variance, if you grant the variance, it's a variance to the requirement that they have a certain number of parking spaces. If you don't grant the variance, they need to figure out how they're going to get parking. And that sometimes can be done with a cross-access agreement to use parking nearby. So that's the decision before you.
And if I'm looking correctly, we're talking 8 parking spaces? Is that correct? 162, was it 60? It says, therefore, we must provide 162 spaces. Currently, our site design includes 154.
So we counted 152, and they're required 168. So that's
Okay.
16.
Maybe I'm reading something that's old.
So they're
I think
required.
they may have put in 154 at one time, and then when we analyzed the site plan, it was 150.
Okay, but where this says they need to provide 162 to meet code, the document I happen to be looking at, it's actually 168.
168.
Mayor Kling.
Because that's the 2 per dwelling unit, since there's 81, plus the required ADA spaces.
Okay,
Yeah, that's
Yes.
the ADA is above and beyond.
that's what,
Yeah,
okay.
it's 1 per 25 spaces.
Okay.
Mayor, one question, Rodney. Can you describe to me what you interpret as the extraordinary site characteristic that would be something that we could look at for granting this request?
So I think a couple of things that you need to consider. One is the change in the transportation plan where we took additional right-of-way than was originally expected, that there's no legal status that we have to grant anything because of that, but it was something that they considered. I think the major thing that I've been considering as I've been evaluating this condition or this project is the fact that it is for lower income individuals that, as they've shown from their survey, if we can trust all of those surveys that they did for their projects, requires less parking. So I suggested in the staff report, and I have it here today as well, that a recommendation that the variance, if you want to approve this variance, that the variance shall apply only to the property if operated and managed by a not-for-profit entity with the purpose to provide affordable housing at this location. The concern there is, if it were to transition to not affordable housing and we get tenants that have additional cars than perhaps you would get in this kind of situation, that then it would be non-compliant and likely not have enough parking stalls. So that's why that condition is in there, a recommendation from staff.
So Mayor, as a follow-up question then, are you thinking that we should adopt some sort of a variance in our ordinance when it speaks specifically to this type of housing? Because right now, obviously, if I'm designing a project, I have to meet the intent of what the ordinance says. And if I'm held to a standard, I would expect others would be held to that same standard. And an easy solution is to eliminate a few units because it's just a piece of ground. But again, I mean, if we're going to make determination of how many cars can be, how many in a low-income home they would have, I think that should be something we should have an ordinance revision to be able to address, instead of making a determination on a spot-by-spot basis, because the next project coming in is going to ask for the same type of consideration.
That said, though, tonight we're in a public hearing, and that is outside the scope of our conversation this evening, so I appreciate your comments, but I think I'm going to pull us back into this discussion, because a longer-term ordinance and a change would be outside the scope of tonight.
Okay.
So tonight, this is a public hearing. Do we have, I'm going to move into open comment period, but do we have any other specific questions for Rodney? Because we can come back to discussion at the appropriate time. Okay, so seeing none, and we're going to come right back to the discussion. We do not have anyone signed up. It is a public hearing. Public hearing is opened. Is there anyone here that had intended to testify at this public hearing? Okay, seeing none, we do have an opportunity for our applicant to come back before we close public hearing. So if you would like to, one, if you have any comments based on our discussion, and two, council, do you have any questions for the applicant? So we'll start with your comments and then we'll go with questions.
All right, if I wasn't long-winded enough the first time. I appreciate the comments, and I think, stepping back, the question, where is the hardship in this? And I go back to, I've been working on this project for about a year now. And the moving target, as we were trying to figure out the possible site design, was the fact that the city had very preliminary schematics on how the redesign of 39th Street was going to happen, how Comstock was going to be redesigned. And although there were some light details and some preliminary layouts of what that was going to look like, we didn't have really anything to base our expectations off of. So our first survey, for example, when you're going off title commitments and title reports, it shows in the documents a 25-foot right-of-way from center line of 39th Street. So there we are developing a site plan around a right-of-way that's dictated by title. And I've actually enjoyed working with Rodney and the crew at the city because we've worked well together. But the more we got into it, it's like, okay, well, it's actually 50 feet here, and it's actually 28 or 30 feet. And so the site continued to shrink. And obviously, we have to plan for what's coming in the future and the expansion of 39th Street. But If you're looking at it from a legal perspective, there's nothing there set in concrete that we could really focus on. It was more just feedback from staff. So that did make it difficult, and I think that truly was a hardship because we're planning for something that really hasn't been designed for yet. That being said, I do think we put our best foot forward in encroaching on that drainage easement along the Dewey lateral and achieving that. That's going to be about $280,000 to pipe that irrigation ditch. And, you know, there's benefits to doing that. We have, you know, a large number of children that will be living at this complex. We don't want a big, you know, drainage ditch next to the site. And the comment to a play area that is included, I know you can't really see it on the site plan, but there is a play area, green space, access to 39th Street. The entire property is fenced, so we have wrought iron fencing along Comstock and 39th. We also have vinyl fencing along the perimeter, so here I am getting long-winded again. So I think that's truly the hardship. I think we put our best foot forward to achieve what we could, and that's where we got to. So that's all I have.
Are there any other questions for our applicant before we close public hearing? Okay. Thank you so much. Seeing none, I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Oh, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Are there any comments?
Mayor,
Yes.
I think this work is incredibly important for our community. In reading this, that's, you know, what the applicant stated is what I kind of zeroed in on, is that there was the ambiguity around what was going to be taken in that redesign of the street. Having 15 units available for student families experiencing homelessness is critical. And I know this work has been planned for a long time, and there have been a lot of people involved in trying to figure out how to do something like this. And so I would definitely be in favor of a yes on this. I will make the motion. But I have to figure out. So I would like to make a motion to approve the variance of sections 1022-6B in the BC zoning district at 4104 Garrity Boulevard and 1010 North 39th Street to reduce the required number of parking spaces from 168, including 6 ADA spaces, to 152 for the Canyon Terrace Apartments, an affordable housing project totaling 81 dwelling units.
I'll second that.
And conditions?
With
conditions of
conditions of approval. Thank you.
As recommended.
As recommended.
And I will second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Now is an opportunity for discussion.
Mayor Kling?
Yes.
I'm not sure if a question could be directed at Rodney at this point, but are full frontage improvements required on 39th and Comstock?
Dan, you want to?
Mayor, Councilman Haverfield, full improvements are required on the local roadway, which is Comstock. Sidewalk is required on 39th, which is Ontario.
Okay, so can you answer why such a large right-of-way was being requested on 39th?
The ultimate build-out of an arterial roadway is a 5-lane section, and therefore a 100-foot total right-of-way is required.
So why at this point is this developer not participating in the frontage improvements on 39th?
Mayor, Councilman Haverfield, the code changes last year with the impact fees changed the development requirements for arterial roadways to where the developments are only required to put in sidewalks, not curb, gutter, and pavement.
So who will it be incumbent on, the city of Nampa to front those costs at some future date?
Mayor, Councilman Haverfield, it would be impact fee eligible future improvements.
So who makes the determination when that's going to take place?
It would be based on the capital improvement plan that is adopted.
Ultimately, it's the council that will make that decision, and Tom will come forward with a recommendation, and then council does approve it on an annual, well, it's a little bit more than that, but basis.
So, Mayor, then will cars parking on 39th or Comstock be cited if they're parking on there, if there's not enough parking spaces in this development?
Mayor, Councilman Haverfield, in the short term, if there is adequate space there, that they are not impeding traffic, there could be on-street parking there. If there's not, though, yes, there could be.
I just know 39th isn't wide enough at this point to handle this much additional traffic. So I'm concerned about the fact that it's not being widened. If we're going to be granting potentially a reduction in the off-street parking, it's going to find a place if it's full. And 80% is the rule I usually use in design, where if a person can't find a parking space, even though there might be one or two someplace, they'll park where it's easy to park. Same thing where they'll sit in an auditorium. So I'm not in support of this. I think that it could be, again, I go way out of my way to make sure that I meet the requirements, and to grant a reduction, especially of 16 plus spaces, because that didn't even include the ADA spaces, the 152. I can't support this. I support the concept of it, but I think it could be done in such a way that it could meet the requirements a lot cleaner. There's an ample room to be able to do that and still provide adequate playground area for kids, so I'm sorry.
So I have a quick question, Rodney, and thank you, Councilman. Pending the improvements to 39th, could they go ahead and build out additional pavement for parking that could be used until those improvements are actually made? Or does that not work?
I believe that would require a right-of-way permit. Is that correct?
Yes, Mayor. A right-of-way, they could look at.
Even if it's gravel? I mean, I'm just thinking, right now, you're going to have an area, right, somebody's got to maintain it.
Any improvement, Mayor, within the public right-of-way requires a right-of-way permit.
Mhm.
They typically, they would not be able to do very efficient parking along there. It would have to be parallel parking, if any were allowed, because we do not allow backing parking onto an arterial roadway.
My thought is it would be good as you guys go through the process to give some consideration to that, because you've got a 50-foot, an additional however many foot right-of-way that someone's got to maintain. That's our property now, and our improvements to that are going to be somewhere down the road. And so it would be better off to actually utilize that space, even if it isn't paved, for any excess parking, and it gives the opportunity to see how it works. But I know this project, I want to speak, I understand what Councilman Haverfield is sharing, and I think we always need to be fair. So I've never met Mr. Jumper, is that correct? Okay. But I did go out however long ago, it's been a long time, I think Daniel was at the same meeting with Idaho Housing, and we looked, and Rodney, I think, were you there? Right, the very first time we looked at this concept on that location, and I understand the issue where there was a different right-of-way that was being discussed at the time because it hadn't been built out. And so projects like this take a long, long time. And it's taken that long to get to where we are today. And one thing about this project, it is an incredibly collaborative project with a number of partners, including the city and our CDBG funds, to help support it, and the school district and where it's going. And so it's unfortunate that we have to adjust, but I would hate to see a project not happen. One, because when the investment was made, the initial decisions were made, they didn't know that it was a 50-foot right-of-way. So I understand Councilman Haverfield's concerns. At the same time, I do understand where we are today, and that is there was a project that began under a different assumption. And so I appreciated your comments on that, Rodney. So I support the project. I think it's important to our community, and I also support the fact that it's so important that we manage it well. So what's the will of the council?
We've already had
Mr.
a second on it.
Oh, we did? And this was still discussion. You moved, you seconded. Thank you.
We've lost one council.
We lost a
person,
vote.
so I don't know if you,
I'm so sorry. I lost track of that. Well,
Let's all go knock on the door.
let's see where we are on roll call, And if we have to come back, so let's do roll call and we'll see what happens in our roll call. Levi?
No.
Haverfield?
No.
Bauer?
No.
Brunner?
Yes.
Mucci?
Yes.
Okay.
So we need Councilman Rodriguez.
We do need,
You want me to call him?
he's coming. So Councilman Rodriguez, we did call for the vote in your absence. And thus far, we have, just because it's fair so you know where the votes are, we have 3 noes and 2 yeses. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. So 3 noes and 2 yeses.
I vote no.
You vote no. Okay. So with that, we did not approve the change in parking spaces. And what is next for this project? Where does it go from here?
They'll need to redesign to meet code before they can move forward with construction drawings of building permits.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry that, you know what? I hope we can move it forward because it's a very important project to our community. So that said,
Mayor Kling?
yes.
Rodney, on other projects, especially when I was on the P&Z Commission, I love to be able to give advice as far as on how maybe something can be moved forward. It's not my desire to be a stumbling block for people or especially projects when they're looking at this major of an investment. And I would be more than happy to help if you need it. But I can't if I don't have a full set of the information to draw upon to be able to give some advice and give more support to. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity, but I think it needs to be done right because it sets the wrong precedent going forward, especially with low income, because we could end up having a saturation without enough parking, and that wouldn't be positive. So, just my thoughts. Mayor Kling, could we take a 5-minute break?
Yes, let's take a 5-minute break and we'll come back and we'll move on to action item 6.2 at that time. So 5-minute break.
I don't need a break.
Okay.
Data show, and the data show
They could make it.
most people who live
There's no reason in the world they can't.
below poverty level, they don't have two cars.
But just give in.
Then you don't have one car.
Well, that's what I figured. There's a lot of them would not have two
They
cars.
will not. Many will not have one.
Okay, we're ready to move forward with action item 6.2 in the public hearings. This is a conditional use permit for multi-story conditioned storage at District 208 with 924 student storage units on 2 floors in an existing building in the Community Business Zoning District at 1509 Caldwell Boulevard. This is for Rhino Holdings, Nampa. Is our applicant with us this evening?
Bless you.
I am.
Hi, thank you. Could you share your name and who you're with and your address? And then go ahead and share with us?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Mandy Brozo with CSH2A at 200 Broad Street, Boise, Idaho, 83702. Tonight, I am pleased to submit the Karcher Mall, or formerly Karcher Mall, new District 208 Mall project for conditional use permits on behalf of our client, Rhino Holdings Nampa LLC. We have received previous demolition permit approval and several design review approvals for the rest of the mall, and this is just the next phase of work. This project is a mixed-use development of the former Karcher Mall into District 208, which shall include retail, residential, and this request is specifically for the storage component of the project. The project scope will be completed over several phases. With the current economic and health challenges, the project has found it overtly difficult to lease the commercial portion of the mall entirely as retail. Retail tenants have been found to be hesitant to sign leases and move forward with the new brick and mortar premises. COVID-19 has had a great impact on the market and thus impacted the way the project is being redeveloped. However, Rhino Holdings Nampa LLC is committed to continuing the project's development for the District 208 Mall. The District 208 Mall Phase 1 scope of work shall include the remodeling of approximately 216,000 square feet, 2-story portion of the mall, formerly the Karcher Mall lobby and Burlington Coat Factory, for a new health club, gym, and self-storage tenants. The District 208 Mall Phase 1 scope of work will include the development of approximately 61,000 square feet for a health club and gym located on the north half of the second floor of the existing mall lobby, and the portion of the Burlington Coat Factory with the ground floor entrance. The remainder of the space, approximately 141,900 square feet, will be renovated to self-storage and located on the ground floor and southern half of the second floor. The self-storage tenant will utilize the existing overhead doors, allowing for large items to be stored. The existing elevator will be remodeled and used for convenient access to the second floor. The market has shown a strong demand for storage with a market vacancy of under 2%. The growth of Nampa has called for this need, along with the new residential portion to the project that will require the use of storage. These two amenities complements the new multifamily project located to the south of the mall by providing close pedestrian access to the health club, gym, and self-storage. The new parking lot located to the east provides ample parking for both the health club self-storage tenants. Site improvements completed allow for pedestrian connectivity from the mall, from the multifamily housing to the rest of the site in the mall. We appreciate your consideration for this project. We've already received approval for design review, the use of some of the softer materials, wood siding, a metal panel siding, CMU, perforated sunshade, EIFS, and black anodized storefront and trim give this portion of the mall a completely unique look. It is now kind of a large architectural element that will extend above the existing roof line, that is harmonious with the existing rotunda, and will provide a strong visual impact for the mall itself. And we wanted to create an eye-catching facade that represented the revitalization of the new District 208 mixed use. And we also have our owner, Sanjeev Chopra, on the phone, and he would like to speak about this project as well.
Good evening, Mayor and councilors. I hope everybody's having a great evening. Sanjeev Chopra with Rhino Holdings 2200 Paseo Verde Parkway, Suite 260, Henderson, Nevada, 89052. So we've been through a lot of steps through this project already, and the city of Nampa has been great to work with. Some of you may have already seen, we first started with the intent of doing a significant amount of retail portion in this project, residential, and really turn it into a true quote unquote mixed use project here in Nampa. As we went forward, we conducted our first phase, which was actually demolishing about 120,000 feet of the mall. We actually completed that demolition. We put in the new parking lot. We started the new pad, which should be done within the next probably 5 to 6 weeks. And we started to go on to our next phase, which was the residential, which is actually in for permitting with the city of Nampa now for our construction drawings, and actually getting the project on its way. Well, during that time, COVID-19 hit. A significant amount of our interest actually in the retail component dwindled away. And, with other buildings in the city, such as the Kmart, the Shopko, the former Gordman's, now I think JCPenney's is going to go dark. A lot of we started to fight for the same few tenants that are left within the market. So there still is a significant retail component to the mall, to District 208. It's no longer a mall. So I'd like to clarify that. And what we did was we started researching what uses would work well in Nampa. And we found that storage had a very high occupancy rate, and there wasn't a ton of what we call conditioned storage. So indoor storage, so this won't be your typical kind of storage facility where it's all roll-up doors. And we wanted to keep the elements of the project to be first class, like we started with from day one. And so what we did first was we first went to design review to ensure that we can match the look and feel of what we were looking for the project throughout. And so as Mandy had mentioned, we've gone with some very high fixtures. This is not a cheap fascia in any sense. We've gone into deep detail to make it not look like a typical storage building, but rather like a first-class building. And then as we did our residential study, we realized that a lot of the residential units will need storage, and it came out to be what we found to be the best use for the property. And, as it is going to be probably a $70 million project once we're finished, we have to keep the steps moving. And so as we kind of wanted to make sure that we have your both support and approval through this process, we wanted to be here tonight to really work together as we have throughout this whole process. Thank you on my side.
Thank you for joining us this evening. We appreciate you weighing in. And Mandy, thank you. Is there anything else, Mandy, that you'd like to share before we move on to the staff report?
No, I think I covered it all, and Sanjeev did a great job of kind of helping on his side of things as well.
Okay, thank you so much. And okay, so I think we have a question for you. I will say, though, that after we finish our questions, as we move into the public hearing side, we will come back and have you close with any final comments and also have you available for questions in just a few minutes. So, and right now, Councilman Haverfield has a question.
Mr. Chopra, can you speak briefly to the compliance requirements that you have with the Nampa Development Corporation as far as on the development agreement?
Sure, Councilor Haverfield. Of what we've done so far is with the development agreement, we were to go in phases, and so we've worked with Beth and Robin through this process of each step by step and kind of presenting with them what's happened and what's going on. And I believe Beth and Robin should be on. Everything that we've sent to both the design review committee as well as sending to council, we've sent to them to ensure that the development committee has gotten the same ability to view and give us any comments. Beth and Robin, can you comment on that to ensure that I'm not speaking out of turn?
Mayor and Council, this is Beth. Yes, the development agreement with NDC was really based off of total investment, and we have talked with Sanjeev kind of through this process and recognize some of the challenges that COVID-19 has created in their tenant structure. So we're, from a staff level, supportive of this use.
Mayor Clayton, just follow up then. Beth, so there's nothing here. I got a feed. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, it's bouncing back and forth. There's nothing that is for the NDC as far as this is.
I don't believe so, no. I'll double check the agreement right now, though.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions at this time? Okay, so move into the staff report. Rodney?
It's actually Christy.
Oh, Christy, excuse me. I guess I should look at that. Hi, Christy.
Christy, are you there?
Yes, sorry about that. I didn't unmute myself. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Christy Watkins, Principal Planner for the City of Nampa. So the action requested from you tonight is the approval or denial of the conditional use permit request for the multi-story conditioned storage facility at District 208 located at 1509 Caldwell Boulevard. Still too long, I think. Hold on a second. So the project will be completely enclosed within the existing building as circled on your map here. I'll just run through really quickly and try to point what has happened since last December. December, they got the demolition permit for this area here. Can you see my pointer?
Yes.
Okay. That demolition was completed in February. In January, a CUP was approved for the apartments on the south end of the property here. In January, there was also a design review that was approved on the new retail pad here. In January, they also submitted for a site improvement permit for the parking lot and access to the apartments. So this is the access that brings them through the parking lot back to the apartments, and then all of this parking here. And that was approved. February, design review was approved for the apartment buildings themselves. In April, design review was approved for the facade remodel on the Moore Furniture building. The side that was demoed left exposed SAMU, and so they were proposing a facade remodel there. And then just recently in August, the design review approval for the remodel of District 208 Phase 1 that of course is contingent upon your approval of this application tonight. The comprehensive plan shows this area as commercial. It is zoned BC and it is surrounded on all four sides with BC zoned properties with a touch of RMH on the south and RD on the west, both residential uses. There is a mobile home park directly to the south and the commercial uses to the northeast and northwest around the Karcher interchange area. So 1025 sets forth the criteria for approval of a conditional use permit and is outlined in your staff report. Just to summarize, we have to determine that the proposed location, size, and design of the use shall not adversely affect the livability or appropriate development of the abutting properties and the surrounding neighborhood. It shall not be inconsistent with the appearance of the area, and it must enhance the area in its basic community function. 10-119 that was recently approved outlines different conditions for the approval of storage and different conditions that you can set for these. Now, considering that this is in an existing building, completely enclosed inside of an existing building, a lot of these different conditions apply to a new building on a new site that may or may not be abutting an arterial or abutting residential. In this case, it would be interior to the building, so wouldn't necessarily have those same site requirements. The ordinance that will be read before you tonight makes a few changes to the 2,500-foot buffer requirement. So, of course, you are going to be adopting that ordinance with the 2,500-foot buffer from the property line for storage facilities, new ones coming in as opposed to existing. However, that limitation shall not apply to the location of storage facilities or storage units using a pre-existing temperature controlled building. So that is part of the new code. The only comments received tonight were from the public. One letter was attached in your staff report, and you have since received another one that I believe was placed in front of you tonight. Just run through the concerns real quickly. They are concerned about the noise that this might bring, the late hours of traffic, people hopping over the fence, trash, smells, graffiti, and other similar concerns. One of the letters outlines other storage facilities nearby and the need for more retail in the area. The other addresses large parking areas that could be used for fireworks and homeless. And they also wanted to point out the abundance of storage units that are already in the area. So staff analysis of the application shows that a storage facility is allowed in the BC zone with an approved conditional use permit. Storage units have been proven to have a much lower fiscal benefit to the city than commercial land that has almost 10 times the benefit. You will be reading and adopting an ordinance that requires a 2,500-foot separation from established storage facilities, but that new code exempts existing temperature-controlled buildings. And the applicant did receive a site improvement permit in January for the newly created parking area. A storage facility will generate less traffic than retail tenants. Approval of the storage facility may create underutilized parking in the area. So should the council choose to approve the conditional use permit, the following findings must be considered as I stated earlier and as listed in your staff report. If you choose to approve this request, staff recommends approval of the conditions as stated in the staff report and any other conditions recommended by you tonight. These are your motion options. I will stand for any questions.
Mayor Kling.
Yes.
Christy, while I've got you on the line, Beth, if you're listening in as well, was there any consideration or possibly a limitation to the use of a portion of this building for office or for potentially condominium housing?
Mayor and Councilman Haverfield, that information for internal uses and potential clients hasn't really been shared with me. It's kind of been on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, so the what we're being provided with, is it an all or nothing decision that we have to make on the amount of storage within the building, or can we restrict a portion of it so that potentially office or condominium housing could be considered?
Councilman Haverfield, I suspect that that would be a conversation you could have with Sanjeev, and you know, if he's amenable, maybe you could negotiate that.
I just think with the proximity to an athletic facility, the desire to create a live-work opportunity, especially in our downtown core area, this might be an opportunity that hasn't been explored yet. So that was my question.
Could, forgive me, Councilman Haverfield, may I address?
Sure.
I can wait, sorry. So, you know, I think, oh, did you say yes? I'm sorry, I apologize. This whole virtual thing makes it hard.
That's fine. You know what? Go ahead. Typically, that would be done at the conclusion of the public hearing, but since the question has been asked, please feel free to answer it.
Great, thank you, Mayor. So, you know, I think one of the things that needs to be highlighted, and it's a great question, Councilman Haverfield, that the project itself is very large in that it's 35 acres, and we still have approximately 246,000 feet of retail if you include the health club space. So the health club space is taking 61,000 feet of the second floor of that building, of the former Burlington building that we're addressing for storage. We did go out to the market and, you know, we requested whether there was any call center users, whether there was any office users. I think we worked with Beth and Robin. I think they can attest that we worked pretty darn hard trying to get anybody we can. And those users were not necessarily out there, and they didn't want to be near these necessarily uses. And so we have not looked at residential condos, only for the reason of exiting purposes and figuring out how they would have ingress, egress, especially the middle part of the building, not having access to, you know, a fire window. And I don't know, maybe that could be done through a fire exiting, but that part we did not go through. But there is a significant portion of the property that's still a significant amount of retail. When you say of any center at 246,000 feet of retail, it's still a large project, you know. And what we're taking is we're taking the second floor, the back half of the second floor, and we're taking the first half of the bottom floor. And in addition, we're adding the 280 residential units. I think it's now down to 252 based on the bigger size units. But we are adding 252 units. So we really went in depth in order to get to this place to try to figure out what would be best serving the project, and also wouldn't necessarily hurt, you know, the parking in itself, you know. And we did add a big parking lot, but the health club user will use a decent amount of parking.
Thank you.
Mayor Kling.
Thank you. Yes.
If I could, Beth, I think this is a question for you since you work with NDC. Or maybe Councilman Haverfield or Bruner could step in. When I saw the groundbreaking here a couple of years ago, I don't recall in their presentation a storage unit. And so now my question to you, Beth, is this. Did NDC make an agreement with a development agreement with these folks regarding what they could or could not put in there as they helped fund this project?
Mayor and Council, the development agreement is specific to the total dollars invested, and I did have a chance just to read it again and refresh. The controls that NDC essentially has is on the final facade exterior. They do an approval of that. And then certainly the incentive is based off of a total of investment of at least $30 million. So that is really what their incentive agreement is tied to, was the investment into the property. So the uses were not necessarily a component of the development agreement. And I can say, in working with Sanjeev over the last 6 months and looking at the types of projects that we see come into our office from a business development perspective, COVID has really changed call center spaces. I know that was one of the aspects that was originally contemplated for this particular area of the redevelopment. And honestly, I'm not sure what the future of call centers looks like with remote work and the ability for people to have figured out what supervision looks like for call center employees and efficiencies. The idea of paying the overhead expenditures for space and bringing people together is really kind of uncertain in terms of the future and what that may look like for call centers occupying retail or real estate in the future. And then we've also seen some of the similar impacts to office space generally. I think that our valley will kind of in the long range continue to need office space, but it certainly, I don't necessarily think will be at the level that we would have anticipated pre-COVID. So, I mean, just as an anecdotal example, I heard a story on the news recently that REI had built a brand new large-scale corporate headquarters that finalized in June, and they've made the decision to sell the property because they are not planning to return from a remote work type of situation. So, I mean, that's just one anecdotal piece of evidence. So I don't know what the office market kind of looks like going into the future. And so this seemed like a good kind of third alternative to being able to get the space utilized quickly and efficiently. And it's also something that they're not changing the overall structure of the exterior of the building. And so that if a time comes where in the future there's a higher and better use, there could be a kind of a third life for this space outside of the storage units.
Okay, follow up.
Okay.
Okay, so Thank you for that answer. I got a pretty good picture now. However, what is the return of investment that the NDC will benefit from, and how long will it take?
Mayor and Council, NDC's agreement is all based off of a reimbursement. So we've identified infrastructure costs and demolition costs that Sanjeev has borne through this process, and then he will submit documentation of those costs and will receive a reimbursement on property taxes paid. So it is 100% contingent upon him making this investment, the county tax assessor assessing the property at a higher value, him paying his taxes, and then getting a portion of them back. And it has to be completed by 2030 when the life of the district expires. So if he doubles the level of investment and quickens the timeline, the agreement could be paid sooner. If it takes him longer to do the investment and realize that benefit, ultimately, if it's not paid back by 2030, if NDC only pays, if it's a $1.5 million contract and NDC only pays $1 million of it, the owner is out the additional incentive if he runs out of time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so this is a public hearing, and I think we'll move into the public hearing portion. And Debbie, it's my understanding we do not have anyone signed up, but we do have someone here that would like to speak to this. So thank you. Go ahead and say your name, even though we know an
Hi,
address.
I'm Margie Potter, but I'm here 1811 North Cobble Way. I live in the subdivision directly behind the Karcher Mall, and I've lived there for 20 years. Bought my house in there, and the Karcher Mall was right there, and I've slowly watched it decline as times have changed. And I appreciate something being done because I do drive by there every single day, obviously, and think, what on earth could we put in there? And I have not come up with any really good options in my head. So I appreciate Beth Einek and the whole development team for everything that they've done, to really try to think outside the box, put something else in there. But I do want to echo Councilman Haverfield's thoughts that I was really super disappointed when I saw that there was storage units going to be put in there, because it was never brought up to begin with, Councilman Rodriguez, that, because I would have just thought, well, inside ones, maybe that's something that could be put in there. I don't even know how that works. I missed part of the discussion. I apologize for that. But I really would like to see some housing of some sort or something, because I thought that's what was going to be part of the deal of what was going to be going back there was housing. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, maybe, not in my backyard, but yeah, in my backyard. It's okay because there's nothing back there and it's just been vacant for so long and it's kind of an eyesore. So I would really, I'm so pro housing because we have such a shortage of it. I would really like to see something like that. And even if it's not just, kind of affordable housing back there, some kind of housing, because, I have a daughter that's 25 years old and trying to find a place. She's living in a 2-bedroom apartment that feels lucky to have. And she's trying to find a place, another place, and she can't. And so I would really like to see something like that kind of use put in there. But I am appreciative that there's anything happening in there. I want to make my point about that. So thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that intended to testify this evening? Okay, seeing no one, this is an opportunity before we close public hearing for Mandy or Sanjeev to provide any closing comments. And this might be a good opportunity for you to remind Margie, as she shared that she's looking forward to housing, what you have planned for the back of that property, and the storage being a component of providing for those with the housing you're providing.
Sure. Mandy, you mind if I go first? Ms. Potter, thank you. I'm going to address your comments first. Thank you for presenting your comments. Appreciate it. And glad we have residents who care about the community like you do to be involved. The back part of that property is going to still be residential. It's going to be approximately 252 residential units. So your residents will not abut to the storage facility in any way. Your residents will abut to the District 208 apartments that will act as a buffer. If you look at the diagram, I think they have up right now, the back side of that property would be covered by residential. And so that's always been our intent. It's still our intent. And to address, the concerns of storage, we have a big financial investment here. Redeveloping any project in this day and age is tough. Anybody who tells you otherwise, either they have more money or more brains than I have. But we are doing the best we can. And so what our intent is to take a portion of this project, which is, still under, maybe 35% of the building that's left, and convert it to a use that would benefit both our residential component, benefit the community, because there's not a lot of conditioned storage in the community. Everybody's built a lot of ground up, roll up door storage. And ours is going to be different. It's going to be conditioned. It's going to allow you to store your stuff inside a safe place. And it's not going to look like a storage facility. If you look at the design, we're spending a significant amount of money in the facade. If there were more uses, I would be the first one to say, hey, let's go for it. I'm a very active retail developer. I'm probably developed certain tenants more than other people in the country, and I love retail. We've got several new retailers coming to this spot, but we had them come out and fall out left and right once COVID hit. And pre-COVID, it was already tough. Redeveloping an old mall is not easy. And then we went with Beth and Robin, who have been a great team to work with, and we said, hey, let's try to get a call center because we think we can bring call centers in. And I believe Beth and I both worked really hard, and Beth can either attest or deny what she felt, but I both felt like we worked with Robin and Beth really hard to try to get whoever came to town, and we marketed it for about 8 months. And then COVID hit. And when COVID hit, we just realized this has got even deeper. And so in order for us to make this investment, which is a significant investment, we need the support to be able to get this thing actually fully completed. And completing the project in phases is great, but we've already done the first 2 phases. We are actually already invested over $4 million in just improvements, just in doing the parking lot, the demo, and the new pad. And the next phase now gets very, very significant in investment. And we believe in Nampa. We want to be here. I personally have no intent of selling the property. I'd love to keep this for my family. But we need the support and help to be able to really get adaptive in today's world. And, then we started looking out in other mixed use developments. And I remember from my first day when I met with Mayor Kling, and she said, hey, we are adaptive, we're supportive, but we want it to make sense. And I'm hoping that today we present something that makes sense and that we can be adaptive and we can earn your support on, keeping this thing moving forward. Mandy, you want to add anything to that?
No, I think you did a great job.
Any questions I can answer for anybody? And again, Ms. Potter, thank you for what you said. Andrea, are you on the phone that you could speak for us?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So I just wanted to chime in a little bit. I'm a broker that specializes in retail tenant and landlord representation, and have been definitely facing some challenges during COVID. And as we're looking at the market, I think Sanjeev already mentioned in Nampa, we're dealing with a vacant Gordman's, a vacant Kmart, a partially vacant Shopko, a vacant Macy's, and probably soon to be a vacant JCPenney. And the retail deals that we are doing that are larger box or junior box in Meridian are typically relocations of existing tenants within the market. And so we're not seeing a lot of new tenant activity. What we are seeing is, taking tenants from one location and putting them in another because we can give them a better deal or better rent. And so it doesn't really solve the problem, right? We're just moving a retail tenant from one spot to another and then leaving another vacancy. And I think, you know, we've been working on this project for a very long time with the previous ownership, with the current ownership. We did the More Furniture deal in the space, which thank goodness for the housing market is very successful right now. But I think what Sanjeev is bringing to this project is truly a mixed use development, which every community seeks to have. It's the apartments are going to demand the need for the storage. And, you know, obviously, we're trying to keep our options open. If we had a national retailer tomorrow that came and said, we want that whole Burlington space, we would be just as excited as you guys would be, and we would put them right in there. But we're not seeing that. And we are, you know, reaching out to tenants outside the market, within the market for relos. We are actively just marketing this project. And I think it's the best, you know, most viable intersection in Canyon County. And so my team and I have been working very hard on this project, and it wasn't initially the best use for the project, but I think because it's a portion of it, and we still have the rest of the retail, and we've built a brand new retail building out in front, where we've got a great food retailer going in there, and probably two actually. And so it's really changing the dynamic of the whole project. And that's kind of all I have to say.
And to add to what Andrea said too, the idea with the self-storage is that if we were to have more retail tenants come in the future, because it's indoor conditioned space, we are able to scale back the amount of self-storage that is in that space and revamp it for its next life of a retail tenant without having to completely redo an exterior facade and take away the amenity for the multifamily housing on the south of the building. The flexibility of kind of the storage component of the mall will help, we believe, in the future of the growth and expansion of District 208.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that closure. I'd like to ask the council if you have any questions for Sanjeev, Mandy, or Andrea. Yes.
What will the hours of operation be? Is this a 24/7 operation where people can come and go?
I'll take that team. So this is Sanjeev. No, it won't be 24/7. Since it's a conditioned space, it has to have interior entry. Generally, it's early morning around 6 a.m. and generally closing around 8:30 or 9, kind of typical our mall business hours. There will be emergencies at time where someone may have to come in and they'll call somebody. I don't think anybody will be living on site, but they may have to call somebody to be there. But generally, it's a little different than your typical roll-up storage where we're coming in the middle of the night. And again, we don't have any boats or we're not doing any RVs. It's more for your interior things. So that would be my initial guess, but it wouldn't be 24-hour because we don't want 24 hours ourselves with the residential nearby.
Follow up, please.
Yes.
Also, people will still have to access exterior to move things in and out. Is that correct?
Yeah. So there's a loading dock there now. I don't know if you've seen that or not, but there's a loading dock already there that would stay. In essence, we've dressed it up for people to be able to go in and load. There's a freight elevator already there in the backside. We're trying to keep those elements of the building, but we're dressing them up a little bit. There'll also be a facade. Mandy or Christy, could you show that facade that we have on the slide, please?
And in this question too, what 934 units, what impact of noise do you think that's going to have on the residents who live behind the building?
I really don't know what noise you have in these type of storage units. I mean, it's a concrete block building. So there's no, I wouldn't see any noise that's greater than anything else. You're not bringing in your boat or your truck. You're not loading things after 9 o'clock at night generally, or even, at all, I would guess. So I really, and then if you look at the residential behind it, we still have a buffer. It's a gated community. So I really don't see any noise, to be honest, but I can't guarantee that because I don't know if somebody goes in there and puts the drum set and they drop it one day or if something happens, but I mean, I wouldn't see of any. I mean, these are more like 5x5, 10x10 type of units for people to be able to get their stuff in and out and keep it in a safe place.
Thank you. Are there any further questions?
Mayor Kling.
Councilman Haverfield.
Sanji, Just a quick question. You said 252 housing units. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. 924 storage units. The math is about 3.67 storage unit per dwelling. Where do you think the balance of users will come from if they're not in the development south of this building?
You know, that part I can't say where the users. I mean, obviously we believe from Nampa and Caldwell, it's a different type of storage user. You know, it's a conditioned space, so it's interior, it's HVAC. It's looking for someone who's not looking for their stuff to either be frozen or someone to not have their stuff be overcooked, depending on the season. Nampa has great weather, but it also at times has extreme weather. So we're basically going off, we did a market study and the market is very well for storage. I'm sure you guys know that already, but it's got a 98.4% occupancy rating. We're not really competing with the drive-up storage because we don't offer that. We're not competing with the RV and the boat storage because we don't offer that. Really, we're looking for the people that have an extra garage they need, or they want to be somewhere and they come here and shop even. They get to drop their stuff off, they get to live here, they get to work here, so on and so forth. So it looks like a lot of units because right now the way we have it divided up, but it's also a lot of second story units. Who uses it? I can't tell you. I can tell you that there's a lot of apartments nearby that we're hoping to capture, you know, and we believe that our apartment users would do it. We did a project in New Mexico, and this is nothing near what we did in New Mexico as far as this is a larger scale project, but we did 300 units. And we had about 280 storage units there, and all of them took one. So we do believe that the significant portion will come from our residential itself. Where the remainder comes from, I couldn't tell you that off a guarantee. I can tell you that there's not a lot of conditioned space within Nampa itself, and so you'd be bringing a new amenity to town. And again, I don't know what's coming, so if I'm speaking out of turn, Commissioner Havenfield, about you know. Councilor Haverfield, forgive me. I apologize, but that's where I believe they'd come from.
No, I appreciate that, and I've dealt with people moving out of California, especially that were really looking for conditioned space to put their furniture in while they're having homes built or other buildings. I'm pleased to hear that Jean can shop and buy 12 pairs of shoes and have a place to put them. She doesn't have to take them home. Yeah.
Tell her thank you from our side.
Yeah.
12 pairs?
Are there any other questions for our applicant? Okay, thank you so much. If there are no further questions, I would stand for a motion to close public hearings.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Council discussion. What is
I'm just going to go ahead and move on this one, Mayor, then there can be plenty of discussion. I appreciate Sanjay, I appreciate you. Boy, scary times. You do have to call an audible. We have a quarterback down here on the council, so he knows what that's like. You have to change your play. And you've had to do that. And I appreciate the athletic facility that's going in there. And I am not, if you would not know this, but I am not a storage lover, okay? Outside, but this is a different type. It's indoor conditioned, and I think you're doing what you have to do at this point in time. And I just appreciate you and your group moving ahead with this development. So after all that, I make the motion that we approve the CUP as stated.
Is there a second?
Were there conditions of approval?
With conditions?
Please, sorry.
With conditions of approval.
Yes.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded.
Mayor Kling,
Yes,
just one
discussion.
other thing I would mention that I forgot to state. I was meeting with a daycare provider today on designing a new facility for them in Meridian, and a daycare facility in that general location would also seem like a good use along with the storage units because of the amount of housing and transit of people. So I would hope that you would maybe still reach out to other type of uses in there and not just be all storage.
Great idea. Great idea. Any further discussion? I have to say, Councilman Brunner, I appreciate your comments because I'm right there with you. I have been a huge proponent for pausing on storage. That said, this is an interior building, a building that's already sitting there, a building that could sit vacant for a very long time. I appreciate the ingenuity I think to be creative in a difficult time and figure out how to move things forward. I think the storage right next to the apartments is especially conditioned, is a wise idea because it just goes hand in hand with what you're building there. We appreciate your investment. And so I do support it. I would suggest that hopefully you build it out in phases to where if you do have an additional tenant use that you build it out as you lease it out, possibly in phases in case you do have another use come by, like a daycare that comes available. I think it's a great idea.
Mayor Kling,
Yes.
when I first saw this, I went, oh my gosh, another storage unit. And there's already quite a few storage units in that area. And I'm I was actually disappointed that we're going to have to contend with, of all places, the Cartramala storage unit. Either way, however it looks. But I realize the position that this gentleman is in, understanding that it's a critical crisis right now for the economy. So my heart is broken that storage units go in there, but I see the necessity for business. So very hesitantly, I'm going to say yes to this.
Is there any further discussion?
Mayor?
Yes.
Am I allowed to talk since I'm in the...
Yes, you are.
No, it's been an area that struggled for a long time. So I think they're just trying to create some income in a difficult time and be a little bit diversified. There's still lots and lots of property around it to do other things. I think there's more, there's additional space for them to do other things. So that's why I'm for it. And it is a little bit different. It's a different use than our traditional storage units.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mucci?
No.
Levi? No. Haverfield?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Bruner?
Yes.
4-2.
Okay, there we go. So you can move forward. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. We appreciate each of you guys, and hopefully get to see you guys soon in Nampa when this whole thing clears up.
Thank you.
Have a
Good night.
everybody. Thank you.
Okay, we're moving on to action item 6.3. This is a variance for sections 10-10-6 in two-family duplex residential zoning district at 2020 High Street and 0 High Street. This is to allow for a lot line adjustment, creating two substandard size lots, including an existing single home and a buildable lot for a new single family home to be constructed north of the existing home. This is in the Yale Park Addition subdivision for Wesley Waldorf, representing Diana Cervantes. Okay, is the applicant present? Thank you. Come on forward and give us your name and address. And thank you for your patience and for joining us.
Thank you for having so many other ones ahead of me. I ran from home. I didn't get my information until 6 o'clock tonight. And I was supposed to be here by, I guess, noon to be online to do this. But then I saw we were taking people that were here like we usually do. So I got in my car and ran over here. So thank God we have these larger things happening.
Well, that worked.
I had these also to put in.
Okay.
My name is Wes Waldorf, and my address is 226 Sebastian Place, Nampa, 83687. And I'm here to represent Ms. Cervantes. She has a piece of property. Actually, there's two parcels there. And she has an old existing home on it and a very small parcel. And what we want to do is go ahead and create the two substandard lots for her. Her intention is eventually to build a home on it, possibly for her parents. And then the other house, which she is currently renting, they're considering taking off a part of it and then renovating it. But basically, like I said, we're just trying to create two lots there for her. I know the codes have changed a little bit, and that's why we're asking for the variance. One of the pieces of evidence I just gave to you is another lot that they did something similar to. It's 112 Hudson and 114 Hudson. I actually know the people who used to own the property that that duplex was put on. It was a friend of mine's father owned the parcel. He passed away. They sold his house, and then they eventually sold the smaller house. Whoever bought that developed it and turned it into a duplex behind the smaller house. It's almost identical to what we're asking to do on this one. So that's where we're at.
Thank you. And I think what Rodney did was, my guess is he stepped aside to scan those documents so that he can show
Okay.
them. So he will be right back. He's just needing to do, I'm pretty sure, a scan.
Okay.
So we will pause for just a minute, but during the pause, council, do you have any questions for our applicant?
Mayor Kling,
Yes.
Mr. Waldorf, so will there be a cross-access agreement between parcel 1 and parcel 2 to be able to provide access to the garage on parcel 2?
Yes, we were waiting to we already had our survey done, and we're just waiting to see how you all rule as to what we do with it. If you agree to this, we're going to go ahead and get an access agreement to get to the back, as well as a utility easement within that easement, and then also a road agreement to take care of that property road going back to the back. They'll be shared by both houses, both properties, and we have to do that with a lawyer. He'll write it up. We'll take it to the county, and then they'll put it in public record.
So I guess my question is, currently, what appears to be the driveway and utility easement that you're talking about is the driveway for the existing house.
The existing house at this point, that's not a driveway, it's a parking spot.
Right.
And so what we would do is we would access that as the driveway. We also have, if you look at it, we have some leftover area to the left as well as to the front. And one of the things we were thinking about doing was enlarging that to be able to create a parking spot there in front of the house.
Well, you'll need 2 parking spaces for the existing house.
Okay, and if I would have to turn around and see what the zoning would allow for, but like I say, we have, I think it's, let me see what I have here. I think the drive itself is 12 feet, and I think we have another, I think it's almost 19 feet, and then we can take space to the opposite side.
Okay, so I guess that's just what I wanted to point out is inherently there's an issue with providing the parking for the existing house if you're using that same drive lane to provide access to parcel 2. And then I would assume you've talked to the fire department as far as being able to access that second parcel back there in the event of a fire, how they would be able to stretch their hoses back that far without having access.
To be honest with you, I have not.
Okay. Maybe Rodney can answer that question.
But I do have a kind of a preliminary site plan here, and we have 21 feet between the property line and the house, and that would be encapsulate some parking and then parking on the opposite side also.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions for the applicant? Okay, so in the public hearing process, we'll have a staff report and then we'll go into public hearing.
Okay.
And I don't believe we have any tonight, so we'll before we close public hearing, we'll have you come back so that you can answer any additional questions. And then we'll close and then we'll,
Okay, thank you so much.
thank you.
And Mayor, I have his documents that he submitted now, if you would like to see them.
Yes, we would. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
so let me share the screen just so the public can see it. Christy, I'm going to take the screen.
Okay, you can have it.
Rodney, thank you.
That was the first one. Here's the second one. That's it.
Thank you. Okay, I think we're ready for staff report. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I will get this put back up for you. Okay, Christy Watkins, Principal Planner for the city. So the action requested from you tonight is the granting of a variance of Nampa City Code Section 1010-6A, which requires a 7,000 square foot minimum lot size for a single family home or even a duplex. There are currently 2 lots at this location. The one located at 2020 High Street, that fronts High Street, is 6,926 square feet. It's already a substandard lot. The one that is part of the backyard to the northwest is 1,619 square feet and is landlocked. So the applicant's stated request, as you heard from him personally and was stated on his application, was that he would like to adjust the smaller parcel lot line to create 2 more equally sized lots to access the full potential and value of the property. The property is located in an RD or 2-family residential zone and is surrounded by RD zoned residential properties on the northeast and west, and on the south by RS6 residential properties. So a variance may be granted to an applicant that shows undue hardship based on special site circumstances relating to the size, shape, or dimension of the site. A variance is not intended to allow something that others do not have the permitted right to do. The purpose is to provide fair treatment. So in this case, we are entertaining this request for substandard lots, and we need to determine that there are extraordinary site circumstances that existed when he purchased the property. If the literal interpretation of the code would deprive the applicant of privileges enjoyed by others in the area. If by granting this variance, we are not granting a special privilege. If this smaller lot will be detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare, or if it is materially injurious to the properties in the vicinity. So the Nampa City Code that applies to this regulation, again, is 1010-6A, which does require the 7,000 square foot minimum. Analysis, or as you can see, we've looked at the site plan a number of different times here. That's what they're proposing to build on the property behind. The driveway utility easement is to the left there. You can see the 21 feet before it jogs in. There's 20 feet from the back of the existing house to the proposed parcel line adjustment. There could potentially be parking back there. I'm not quite sure what's there. If you look at the total depth of the property, it's 157.35 feet. So fire department access requires turnaround at 150 feet. So it's not quite that far to the front of that house. So I'm not sure that fire department would necessarily have a concern about that, but that is something that does need to be sent to them when the building permit is requested. So the staff analysis of this is stated by code. In order to build or remodel or add on to a structure, the lot area shall be 7,000 square feet. But we find that there are essentially no provisions in city code allowing the property owner to construct a home on this property under the current zoning. The recently approved RS4 zoning district does allow for property as small as 4,000 square feet. A rezone of the property in this location might be considered to be spot zoning and may have potential legal consequences. Being unable to construct a home on the parcel could be seen as a hardship to the property owner. 222 High Street is immediately adjacent to this subject property, and in July of 1980, it was granted a variance for substandard lot width for construction of a garage in the front of a duplex. Now, I'm not sure when the split happened, but it's no longer a duplex, it is a townhome. At some point after July of 1980, the back 1,916 square feet of the property was split off and sold to the then owner of the subject property at this address, 220 High Street, creating a landlocked parcel of substandard size and leaving the 2 duplex townhome parcels at 222 as substandard lots by today's code. This action, however it may have happened years ago, created extraordinary site circumstances for the lots at this location. The backyard of the parcel addressed as 220 High Street is uniquely shaped and largely unusable. The proposed layout and lot line adjustment would provide for another single-family home in a zone that could potentially allow for 2 attached dwelling units on a 7,000 square foot lot. This lot line adjustment would ultimately provide 2 detached dwelling units on a base lot of 8,849 square feet that was split into 2 of 4,614 and 4,235. Enforcement of the code in this case could be assumed to deprive the applicant of privileges enjoyed by owners in the surrounding district. Construction of a new single-family structure shall comply with current building and fire codes. Buildings must comply with required setbacks as well. You'll notice that the building, let me go back to the site plan here. The existing house is 3 feet 3 inches from the east property line. So one of the conditions would be that they would need to get legal non-conforming use status of that structure. So the correspondence that was received was the standard building department conditions, and they also added an extra one that said, in regards to fire rating projections of the existing structure closer than 24 inches to the property line and limiting openings in that wall to 25% of the wall where applicable. The next door neighbor, Landon Lusk, at 216 High Street, is wondering about whether or not a 2-story dwelling unit would be allowed or if it's planned. He's concerned that the 2 stories would invade his and his neighbor's backyard privacy. Other than that, I didn't receive any other comments after you guys received your staff reports. So the recommended conditions are the standard city building safety, engineering, fire department requirements. And then also, again, to obtain the legal non-conforming use status on the existing structure where it is located 3 feet 3 inches from the property line. Normally would be required a 5-foot setback. So I will stand for any questions. Here are your proposed motions.
Mayor Kling.
Yes.
Christy, I asked the applicant a couple of questions earlier. I don't know if you heard those questions or not. But in looking at the proposal, there's a 12-foot wide section of ground between the existing house and the property line to the west that is currently being used as a parking area for the existing house. At least that's what the photos show. Now that would be, I guess, where the cross-access agreement would be provided from parcel 1 to parcel 2?
Councilman Haverfield, yes, that would be correct.
Okay.
So to continue with that, the 12-foot access easement then would leave approximately 9 feet to the west in that jog. That would provide for a width of parking that would be sufficient, and then also the 20 feet behind the house could potentially also provide for a width of parking that would be sufficient.
Okay, so my follow-up question then would be 2 things. Is there a landscape requirement along that western boundary line with the property to the west?
On individual residential properties, we do not have a landscaping requirement.
So they could have the drive lane right on the property line?
Yes, they could.
Okay, and being 12 foot wide is not adequate for a fire engine to be able to access the back lot. So, and I don't believe if Chief Carpenter's on the call still, he can speak to it, but that's normally a 20-foot wide drive lane. So they would not actually pull onto the property. They would have to fight a fire from High Street, which would mean they would have to pull a hose over 150 feet, which I think exceeds the limits for a fire engine apparatus. Chief Carpenter, are you on the call?
If I may, this is Ron Johnson, Fire Marshal for Nampa Fire Department. I can chime in on that.
Okay.
So Idaho Fire Code does allow a 12-foot wide driveway for single-family homes. It's not part of a larger subdivision. So with this one, we'd actually be okay.
Okay. What about the, so you would be, would you pull your apparatus then along the west side of the existing house?
Yeah, if it was a full 12 feet wide, we'd be able to pull the apparatus up looks like 92 feet, and then that would get us within 150 feet of the far point of that second structure. So we should be okay there. Now that only would really allow us to get one apparatus in there with another one behind it potentially.
My understanding, Chief, is that you would not go in more than 60 feet without having a turnaround provided at the end of that. Is that not correct?
150 feet is how
So
far we
you'll-
go about it.
You'll go ahead and pull in 150 feet then,
Yes.
and then back out?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Good questions. Thank you. Are there any other questions? Okay. Seeing none. Oh, good grief. Totally lost. I'm sitting here listening. I'm thinking, where are we in the process? So I think that was questions related to the staff report, and we're ready for public hearing. And so at this time, we do not have anyone signed up to testify. Is there anyone here that would like to testify on behalf of or in opposition of this? And seeing none, this is the opportunity for applicant to come back if you would like to stand for any questions or make any closing comments before we close public hearing. Okay, do we have any questions for the applicant?
As long as, Mayor, as long as you understand the parking requirements for the existing house, you'd either be providing those spaces tandem to that utilities driveway along the west boundary line or pulling in behind the building, which would take up your backyard. So just wanted to make sure that you were planning on that being clear for a fire engine apparatus or the person in the back to be able to access their
What we might
property.
have to do is, when we do the agreement for the road access, et cetera, we probably have to put that into it too, that's designated parking for the existing house. That way it's on record as such.
Yeah, well, that's what a cross-access agreement is for, is to provide a clear path from one parcel to the other. You can't have parking on it, obviously, so. And the chief told me something I didn't know. I thought it was only 60 feet that he would pull in without backing back out. So he said 150, so you're fine as long as there's a fire hydrant within 150 feet of the apparatus once it's pulled in there that they can hook to. I'll why am I talking for Gene Munchie? She's the one that should know all this, so.
I know nothing about it.
All right.
Okay. Any other, would you like to close with any comments?
No, I just, well, two things. One, I really appreciate work, and I'm not buttering you up, but I really do love working with the building department and this planning and zoning because they're really helpful. I mean, I've dealt with some other people and it's hard to get information, but they're just like your neighbor. Okay, so I really appreciate that. Other than that, I just hope you approve it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I would stand for a motion to close public hearing testimony.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, what's the will of the council?
Mayor,
I'm sorry. I was just going to make a point, then I was going to make a motion, but.
well, go ahead. I'll give you. Go
Mayor
ahead.
Kling, the only reason I ask the questions that I do is to provide clarity so that these things are addressed going in instead of at the end of a process and being found out after the fact that, we didn't do our due diligence to help you out. So with that, with the questions that I've asked and have answered, I'll make a motion to approve this request as submitted with conditions of approval as attached.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion.
Just, Mayor, I want to compliment, I get on him every once in a while, but Councilman Haverfield, because I think his questions are very, very good for the rest of us especially. So I keep asking the questions.
Buttering me up.
Just vote differently every once in a while.
It's the hat that he's wearing has got him the approval. Go Broncos.
Well, I have to say, I thank you for your comment, and I understand why you're asking them, so thank you very much. So, okay. If there's no further discussion, roll call. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Levi? Yes. Bauer?
Yes.
Mucci?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
You had it.
Okay, there you go.
Go Broncos.
Okay, do we need another break or shall we keep going?
Let's keep going.
Keep
Okay.
going. Let's get her done.
Okay, so we're going back to the beginning and we're going to start with staff communications. Tom Points.
You still awake, Tom?
You can see him taking those 2 naps.
4.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have a very short staff report for you. This is a follow-up to last council meeting. We're giving our seal coat report, and we had a letter come in from a Mr. Freeman that was addressed to the council. So our policy that I train our team in at Public Works is a letter for a letter and a phone call for a phone call, email for an email. So we got a letter, so we wanted to respond to Mr. Freeman. We provided that in our packet. Hopefully that gives some background on why we don't seal coat in cul-de-sacs. And we actually tried it before, as was stated in the letter, and some poor results. And there's a lot of turning pressure in a cul-de-sac with cars and trucks turning around the area. It's really hard to get a rock to hold in that area. And besides that, it's really not needed because the rock is really for the friction. So if you're in a cul-de-sac, you're not in a high-speed area. So what we do in our policy now, after trying that, we go and crack seal cul-de-sac, and we come in and then we add a fog seal over the top, which is a light application of emulsion, and that helps with the oxidation, preventing oxidation on the pavement. And so, and as funding increases in the city of Nampa, we can look at rebuilding some cul-de-sacs that are failed. There's some of them that are failed that we're doing the best we can with the fog seal, but it needs a full rebuild. So can I answer any questions about seal coating?
Just one. Have you ever looked into an interwoven mat in the buildup of the asphalt to be able to hold it in tension? You know, you're talking about this type of movement and being able to hold it or have itself hold itself together with some type of an interwoven mat makes sense to me from an architectural standpoint, but I'm not an engineer.
Councilor Havelfield, I have lots of experience with seal coats, and seal coats have worked well and haven't. I've never seen a mat technology for a seal coat. I've seen it for a pavement,
right,
inside of pavement layer to help give the strength, but the mat would have to be porous enough that it would allow the oil to soak up through it, because the oil is what's holding the rock down in place. So I haven't seen that type of product yet.
Okay. Maybe I'll have to work on that.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
To start another business.
Yeah.
Mayor Kling,
Yes.
I don't have a question, but I have an attaboy for Jeff Barnes. I got a call from Jessica Velasquez. She owns the Journeys Hospice Care, and they had a huge problem in their area with a hole in the pavement. Maybe you know what I'm referring to. It's been a couple weeks ago now, and I didn't have any phone numbers, but she had mine. So I had her get a hold of Jeff Barnes, and I'll tell you what, he was right on it, and he took care of it right away. And so I haven't had time to say kudos to Jeff, but if you're out there, Jeff, hey, that was great. That customer service was just awesome, and she said thank you to Jeff many times, but it's been taken care of now.
All right, thank you for letting me know. I'll definitely pass that on.
Yes, sir. Do
Thank
that,
you.
please.
All right, thank you, Counselor.
Awesome. Is that it?
That was it.
Well, that was easy. I'm sure you'll be back. Thank you. You know, we have a great team. And I will say this weekend, I was just thinking about our employees and our directors within the city. And we are truly blessed with the team of leaders that we have and the work they do.
We are blessed.
We are. I appreciate them greatly.
Mayor,
Yes.
I just want to thank, I've had some good experiences with Rodney and Tom, and I agree. We have some of the best employees in the whole state. So just thank you guys for what you do.
Yep.
I agree.
Goes to Darren and Ed and Daniel and Chief sitting over there.
You mean the ones that's asleep?
Tom and Rick, yeah.
Mayor,
Maybe
we just
Doug.
get a little better mask for Daniel. I'd appreciate that.
Yeah.
I know it. That's why I'm giving you a hard time.
That's great. Okay, so now we're moving on to action item 5.3. This is the resolution calling for the public hearing, which we will have at the next council meeting to amend the FY20 budget.
So moved.
Second. Do we have to read it? We're good. It's been moved and seconded. Roll call. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Bruner?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Mucci?
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Item 5.4 on the agenda was an action item to approve participation in the Governor's Public Safety Initiative, which is the property tax relief proposal. And based on some information I received today, as we consider it, I feel like there is actually, we need to wait for further information before we vote on this. So I would ask for a motion to continue this item to a future date, which we will have to determine in the next week, to address it as an unfinished business item when we have further information to take into consideration.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
So Mayor Legal, we do not need to set a date at this point in time. It can be done in the future. Okay.
Mayor,
Thanks.
Yes,
can I request a week from Thursday early?
a week from Thursday early. Does that
'Cause
work for
that's-
everyone?
Isn't there a Wednesday? Maybe we're not supposed to, there's a couple of things we're looking at, right?
Yes,
Tuesday.
and Thursday is the 17th. Doug, can we wait that long?
Possibly. I've requested an extension for the filing of the L2, which is our certification of taxes, which is likely to be granted, and they indicated they would typically grant it until the 17th, meaning it would be difficult for me to put the L2 together and submit on that day. It is possible. I can check and see if they can grant me a day or two beyond that, and if so, then Thursday would be fine with me.
Otherwise, I think if we went with a Monday morning, so we can try for Thursday morning. If not, we would go possibly with a Tuesday morning suffice early,
As in the 15th.
as in the 15th. Would that work for you?
Morning.
Mayor, I thought there was another municipality that was dealing with that on Tuesday. Am I?
On the 15th, yes, but we'll all be waiting for the same information.
Okay.
But we could go for the 17th. Let's see if we can do it, or the 16th. I'll have TJ send an email.
And I
and you guys-
repeat, as long as it's a team meeting or whatever that I can,
You can join.
because I'll be out of
There's
town.
a chamber board meeting, 8:30, so I don't-
On the
on the 17th.
17th.
No,
Okay.
we do this at 7 o'clock, Councilwoman.
7, not 5.
5 p.m.
I work out at that time.
Oh, my gosh.
Mayor,
Victor, come
okay.
on.
No.
I believe we had a motion and a second to a date uncertain, which we'll certain, we'll get certain.
Certainly get started.
Is there any further discussion? Okay, roll call. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Brunner,
Yes.
Mucci,
Yes.
Levi,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Okay, and 5.5 we have completed. 5.6 is an action item to authorize Nampa Parks and Recreation to purchase a CXT bathroom structure using park impact fees for Brant Park in the amount of $170,129. This is approved in the park impact fees for FY20 budget.
So moved.
Second.
I do have a question for Darren. You can come up just a minute. It's as usual, I need to get educated here. So and could I have told by the diagram, what's our total square footage? It's our proposal on this
On the,
bath
on
restroom.
the structure, I don't know what the square footage is. It is 6 stalls,
Okay.
3 women, 3 men's.
Looks like it's a fair price. From my little research I did, the average price on a public restroom in a park was supposedly $250 per square foot. So that's why I was asking that question.
Okay.
Is what that,
Mayor
So-
Kling, can I make the comment that this is a building that's being built in Nampa by our new CXT Foster LB
I
Foster
understand that.
company?
just making sure we're
It's all
getting a good deal.
concrete. It's all concrete.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Okay, I believe we had a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Brunner,
Yes.
Levi,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Mucci,
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Item 5.7 on the agenda is the first reading of ordinance annexing portions of the underlying irrigation district into the municipal irrigation district for the city of Nampa. It is requested to pass under suspension of rules and with the summary of publication, which is item 5.8 on the agenda.
An ordinance of the City of Nampa, Canyon County, Idaho, annexing a portion of the underlying irrigation district into the municipal irrigation district of the City of Nampa, Canyon County, Idaho, and changing the boundaries thereof and directing the city engineer to alter the use and area map accordingly.
Mayor, I'll make the motion as read with suspension of rules and publication.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mucci?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
And as we did previously, 9 and 10 are done, so moving to 511. This is an action item to authorize the mayor to sign the resolution for a state and local agreement for project development for Cherry Lane, Franklin Boulevard to 11th Avenue North project. And this is approved in the FY20 budget.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mucci?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
512 is an action item to authorize the mayor to sign a renewal for the janitorial services contract with the American Cleaning Services for the Nampa Public Library and the Nampa Development Services Center. This is approved in the FY21 budget, will not be expensed until then, but it is so that they can go ahead and confirm that, and it has been approved by legal.
So moved.
So moved
Second.
and
Yeah.
seconded by Victor. Councilman Rodriguez, is there any discussion? Roll call.
Brunner?
Yes.
Mucci?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Item 513 is an action item to authorize and to approve and authorize the mayor to sign the local professional services agreement number 595678 with the ITD and parametrics for Franklin Boulevard and Carter Road intersection improvements. And this has been approved by legal and is approved in the FY20 budget.
So moved, Mayor.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Mucci?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Item 514 is an action item to authorize the mayor and the public works director to sign a purchase order on October 1, 2020 for additional meter transmission units or parts with Aclara Technologies at the contract unit pricing not to exceed the approved fiscal year 2021 Water Division budget. This has been reviewed and approved by legal and is approved in the FY21 budget, and as stated, will not be expensed or move forward on it until October 1.
I'll make the motion, Mayor.
Second. It's been moved and
Can we,
seconded.
yeah, second, we have some discussion. Is this
Uh-huh.
Tom?
Yes, and then
That's
the next
Daniel.
one, you may have questions on the next one because they're somewhat tied
Right.
together, different vendors.
Yeah, they're just together. And I just mainly, I understand, I mean, we've already started this project. We're continuing, and the expense was kind of shocking to me. I'd kind of forgotten how much all this costs. But what's the savings in the future? We have no meter readers, or where are the savings?
Mayor, Council Brunner, yeah, so that is the savings, then we don't have to send out a meter reader to go out and look at it physically. We can get the information online. And so that'll help us repurpose our staff and other things into our workforce plan. So that's, as we continue to grow, it's good to be, our city, to be an automated meter so we don't have our old technology and have to have meter readers employed to do that when we can use technology.
And I would think common sense would tell us that the accuracy would be much better, but with the automated system than a
The
human
accuracy
being.
is much better. It also helps us find potential leaks that we wouldn't know otherwise if something looks off.
So if it's just a lot of water usage
Right.
compared to a previous year, so do we compare from year to year and so on?
Previous month.
Month?
Yeah,
Okay.
so if we're seeing something that happens during a 30-day period that's a spike that's not usual for that time of year for that customer, we can go investigate it and see if there's a problem with the service line.
So this is the final question. This is all in city, so I take it that all these meters, whether it's manually by a reader or whatever, they've all been read. There's no estimation that's done previously. This would, of course, there would not be any estimation. When I was in college, I read power meters for 4 years, so I know rural areas, so many were just estimated rather than driven out to and read, but everything is being read, whether it's by a meter reader or it's automated. There's no estimation.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, yes. So
Just because of bad weather or whatever, we're going to be able to read everything.
we go out and read it. Yeah.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Mayor Kling.
Yes.
So just so I understand, this is 7,000 are these actual the meters themselves? Or are they actual something that is, it can't be just something you carry around. It's got to be a part of the meter assembly,
Yeah, so
the
Mayor,
MTU?
Mayor Council Haverfield, so there's two items. There's item 14 and 15. So one is for the communication equipment that talks from the meter to the SCADA, which is our data collection. And then the other item is for the tub itself for the meter. And so then the one product, which is the Aclara, is the communication device equipment that, we've been buying that particular equipment for a number of years now, and we want to stick with that equipment for consistency and repairs. The other, the tub itself is Hydro Specialties for now, and we rebid that every 2 years because that's not less of a proprietary product.
So are we on a process of how many, so many meters per year that we're changing out? Is it 7,000?
Yes, we're at 7,000 now. This is, we've basically, we've increased the amount that we've put in from our previous plan. We were on a 7-year track to do this, and now we've reduced it down to a 4-year track. And the reason, and we talked about that in, I guess it was last budget in fiscal year 20 of increasing this line item so we could get these installed ahead of schedules because before the technology changes and we're having to go back and do it again. And then at the same time, the trade-off was that we were going to spend, asked to spend this funds and do this all in-house. And so we're hiring temps to do this in-house, which is another cost avoidance.
So the 200 MTU replacements, are they just in the event that there's failure of one of the 7,000, or are those changing out some that are already in place?
Those are replacement parts.
The 500 antenna replacements, are they just in the event that there's a failure of the antennas in the 7,000 that we're providing?
Or if we have a failure, that's get a supply up if we have a failure in an existing system we've already replaced in previous years, because we've been doing this for a couple of years now.
Yeah, I remember them being called the Badger units or something. So he's not getting a kickback anymore?
It would never get a kickback.
Okay. Thanks.
Bad joke.
Okay.
Okay, so we've had a motion and a second to authorize on item 514, which is the Aclara Technologies piece. Is there any further discussion on that one? Seeing none, roll call?
Brunner,
Yes.
Levi? Yes. Haverfield?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Mucci?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
And the next action item is also part of that discussion, is the actual additional water meters for Hydro Specialties, and it is to authorize the mayor and/or Public Works Director to sign the purchase order.
So move.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mucci?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Thank you, Tom. Good job. Okay, so public hearings are over, and now we move to unfinished business, and the next 6 items are going to be really fun for Debbie Rosen. I'm just looking at these going, oh my goodness, here we go. So just so that I don't have to say it multiple times, we have 6 first reading of ordinances. Each one will be requested to pass under suspension of rules, so I'll just say it one time. And then she's going to get started. Do I have to read it all? I guess. Do I have to read mine and then she reads hers? Or can,
The yours that you're reading is what exactly, and hers
well,
reading is
the
what
first
exactly?
reading of ordinance for the annexation and zoning to BC Community Business for construction of a church and future commercial development at 0 and 0 Cherry Lane, a 26.21 acre portion on the Midway subdivision for Renison Design. I need to say that piece of it. Okay, so I'll do that on every single one, and that one's done. So that was item 7.1, and there you go. Thank you, Doug.
An ordinance determining that certain lands located along Cherry Lane to the north and I-84 to the south and west comprising approximately 36.914 acres, more or less, lay contiguous to the city limits of the city of Nampa, county of Canyon, state of Idaho, and that said land should be annexed into the city of Nampa, Idaho as part of the BC zone, declaring said lands by proper legal description as described below be part of the city of Nampa, Canyon County, Idaho, directing the engineer and planning and zoning director to add said property to the official maps of the city of Nampa, Idaho, repealing all ordinances, resolutions, orders, and parts thereof in conflict herewith, providing an effective date and directing the clerk of the city of Nampa to file a certified copy of the ordinance and map of the area to be annexed with the Canyon County, state of Idaho, and the Idaho State Tax Commission pursuant to Idaho Code Section 63215.
Hey, can you tell me what was the parcel number? And/or the address?
I don't have either.
Okay, the acre portion that you stated is different than the acre portion on item 7.1. So was that for construction of a church? And for future commercial development at 00 Cherry Lane?
Renison Design and Annexation.
Okay, your acre was different than mine. I have a 26.21 acre portion of lots 1 and 13 of block 1. And I think you said 30 some.
36.914.
Okay. And that does not say a parcel number.
I don't know.
No, I don't have any parcel number.
But
Okay.
that's the correct applicant.
It is Renison.
Yeah.
And it is, you don't have a parcel number on that?
I have the legal description at the bottom. It does say 36.914.
What is, in the legal description, what does it say? Where's it located?
Oh, my.
It's the northwest quarter of section 8. Is that in there somewhere? Township 3 North? Range 3
Yeah,
West?
Section 8, Township 3, North, Range 2, West Boise.
Nampa Canyon?
Yep.
Renison Design. What do we do with that?
So it looks like, sorry, Mayor and Council, it looks like the agenda has a misstatement of the acre portion. But the ordinance itself was read by name and title, and we've suspended the rules. It appears that the ordinance matches the legal description. The title of the ordinance matches the legal description. And so we should be okay. Maybe we can check into it after, and if there is an issue, bring it back before you. But for now, I would just say proceed.
Okay, yes.
In order for the property to get annexed, they also annex a portion of the right of way. Therefore, that the parcel size of their ownership and the annexation restrictions are different.
Okay.
And the agenda was likely based
I'm helping.
on parcel size.
We're not.
Include that portion of the right of way.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So we're going to proceed with the approval of the ordinance as it was read.
Mayor Kling, I'll make
yes.
that motion under suspension of rules.
Second. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Bruner?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Mucci?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Thank you. The next one's got to be easier. Trust that.
I hope so.
Otherwise, I'm betting on 10 o'clock.
Yeah. So 7.2, action item. First reading of ordinance for the amendment of Title 10, Chapter 1, General Provisions, Section 10.119 pertaining to zoning regulations applicable to storage land use. This is requiring a buffer for locating new storage facilities a minimum of 2,500 feet from existing storage developments for the city of Nampa.
An ordinance enacted by the Nampa City Council amending Title 10, Chapter 1, Section 10.119 of the Nampa City Code pertaining to the professional public self-storage facility design regulations, providing for an effective date, providing for severability, and repealing all ordinances, resolutions, orders, and parts thereof in conflict herewith.
So moved, Mayor.
Is there a second? Under suspension of rules?
Yes, ma'am. Oh, I thought you already said that to all of them.
So,
Second.
thank you. Okay, it's been moved and seconded twice. Roll call.
Okay, Mayor?
Yes.
Just for clarification purposes, this doesn't speak to like the Karcher storage being that they're conditioned storage? Is that what
The new ordinance, Mayor and Councilman, Councilman Haverfield, so the full ordinance does exclude that as being a 2,500 foot buffer for the conditioned multi-story storage units.
Multi-story.
Multi-story,
So just the conditioning aspect of it doesn't,
that's correct.
what about mixed use? A mixed-use development within 2,500 feet that has some storage as a part of it. Is that restricted as
That's
well,
restricted with the 2,500 foot buffer.
even though it's mixed use?
That's correct. We are bringing forward, though, multiple different ordinance proposals for your consideration. They are scheduled before planning and zoning right now. I can't remember the date. I think it's might be early October when that goes to planning and zoning. So that will come before you again, including some discussion about mixed use at that point.
Okay. Mayor Kling, I will respectfully decline the support of this without that language as a part of it. I think I voted against it first time around anyway, so I'm the bad guy.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Mayor,
Yes.
do we have any discussion about rules on storage within industrial
Correct.
areas?
Yeah, so again, those ordinances will come before planning and zoning. I believe it's early October, and there's 4 different ordinances that we're proposing
Sure.
because there was a lot of discussion, and so I tried to, Doug and I worked through all those ordinances, and so we're going to bring them as options for you to consider.
Thanks, Rodney.
Okay. Roll call.
Brunner,
Yes.
Mucci,
Yes.
Levi,
Yes.
Haverfield,
No.
Bauer,
You gotta go no.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Item 7.3, it is an action item. It's the first reading of ordinance for the annexation and zoning to BC, which is community business for 0.525 acres or 22,866 square feet, located at 0 North Franklin Boulevard. This is a zoning map amendment to agriculture, from agriculture to community business for 2.24 acres at 1414 Karcher Road for Dean Anderson.
An ordinance of the City of Nampa, Idaho, to provide zone designation for certain lands commonly known as 1414 East Karcher Road, Nampa, Idaho, comprising approximately 2.62 acres, more or less, determining that said lands, that said zoning is in the best interest of the citizens and consistent with the comprehensive plan of the City of Nampa, Idaho, rezoning said property from AG to BC, providing for a recording, instructing the city engineer to designate said property to BC on the official zoning maps and other area maps of the city, and also determining that certain other adjacent lands commonly known as 0 Franklin Boulevard, comprising approximately 0.74 acres, more or less, lay contiguous to the city limits of the City of Nampa, County of Canyon, State of Idaho, and that said land should be annexed into the City of Nampa, Idaho as part of the BC zone, declaring that said lands by proper legal description be described as below to be part of the City of Nampa, Canyon County, Idaho, directing the city engineer and the planning and zoning director to add said property to the official maps of the City of Nampa, Idaho, repealing all ordinances, resolutions, orders, and parts thereof in conflict herewith, providing for an effective date, and directing the clerk of the City of Nampa to file a certified copy of the ordinance and the map of the area to be annexed with the Canyon County, State of Idaho, and the Idaho State Tax Commission pursuant to Idaho Code Section 63215.
Mayor, who writes these?
I don't know.
Okay, I just.
Mayor Kling, remind me, maybe Rodney, you can remind me, is this the property that was near Skoglaw?
Correct.
Okay.
So
I was just trying to remember where that property was, so I'll make the motion to pass the ordinance as read under suspension of rules.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mucci?
Yes.
Levi?
No.
Bauer?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
3 more. Item 7.4, action item. This is the first reading of ordinance for annexation and zoning to light industrial for 15 parcels totaling 346 acres in the area located between Cherry Lane on the south, Hustick on the north, Midland Boulevard on the west, and Northside Boulevard on the east. This is for the city of Nampa on behalf of 7 property owners.
In order to determine that certain lands generally described as lying south of Usick Road, east of Midland Boulevard, and north of Cherry Lane, comprising approximately 346.566 acres, more or less, lay contiguous to the city limits of the city of Nampa, county of Canyon, state of Idaho, and that said land should be annexed into the city of Nampa as part of the IL zone, declaring said lands by proper legal description as described below be part of the city of Nampa, Canyon County, Idaho, and directed the city engineer and the planning and zoning director to add said property to the official maps of the city of Nampa, Idaho, repealing all ordinances, resolutions, orders, and parts thereof in conflict herewith, providing an effective date, and directing the clerk of the city of Nampa to file a certified copy of the ordinance and the map of the area to be annexed with Canyon County, state of Idaho, and the Idaho State Tax Commission pursuant to Idaho Code, section 63215.
Mayor Kling,
Yes.
on behalf of Nampa Development Corporation and City Council, I'll make the motion to approve this. It's been a wonderful project that we've been working on for quite a while, so I'd like to see this come to fruition.
Yes.
And a big,
Under suspension rules.
and a big second for that, too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Agreed. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mucci?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
7.5 is an action item. It's the first reading of ordinance for annexation and zoning to light industrial at 16658 Northside Boulevard for future industrial use for Kent Brown, representing the Adler Revocable Family Trust.
An ordinance determining that certain lands commonly known as 16658 Northside Boulevard, comprising approximately 1.52 acres, more or less, lay contiguous to the city limits of the city of Nampa, county of Canyon, state of Idaho, and that said land should be annexed into the city of Nampa as part of the IL zone, declaring that said lands by proper legal description as described below be part of the city of Nampa, Canyon County, Idaho, and directing the city engineer and planning and zoning director to add said properties to the official maps of the city of Nampa, Idaho, repeal all ordinances, resolutions, orders, and parts thereof in conflict herewith, providing an effective date and directing the clerk of the city of Nampa to file a certified copy of the ordinance and the map of the area to be annexed with the Canyon County, state of Idaho, and Idaho State Tax Commission pursuant to Idaho Code, section 63215.
I'll make the motion, Mayor, under suspension of rules.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Brunner?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Mucci?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Debbie, you're doing great. Last one. It's great to get these cleaned up and because they're sitting. So section 8 on our agenda is pending ordinances. And so a lot of these got cleared up, which is wonderful. Just, it's a lot of reading tonight. So 7.6 is an action item. It's the first reading of ordinance for modification of a development agreement. Ordinance number 3884 for a 48-unit senior housing development to a 22-lot duplex Roosevelt Village subdivision at 1910 West Roosevelt. This is 0.4 miles east of Middleton Road, a 6.2 acre portion for Blake Wolf Building.
An ordinance enacted by the Nampa City Council modifying the annexation and zoning development agreement to which that certain real property commonly known as 1910 West Roosevelt Avenue, Nampa, Canyon County, Idaho, comprising approximately 6.2 acres more or less, is subject described in ordinance number 3884 and recorded on October 26, 2009 as instrument number 2009054349, records of Canyon County, Idaho, and reforming and restating said agreement for the primary use of allowing a development of a 22-lot duplex subdivision rather than a 48-unit senior housing development initially contemplated, directing the city planning director to alter the use and area map accordingly, providing an effective date, providing for severability, and repealing all ordinances, resolutions, and order parts thereof in conflict herewith.
So move under suspension of rules, Mayor.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mucci?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
That concludes our regular agenda. I would stand for a motion to adjourn into executive session. This is pursuant to Idaho Code 742061A to consider hiring a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent wherein the respective qualities of the individuals are to be evaluated in order to fill a particular vacancy or need.
I'll make the motion, Mayor.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Roll call.
Brunner,
Yes.
Levi,
Yes.
Haverfield,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Mucci,
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
For those watching online, if we're still online, we do not make any decisions in executive session, and we will adjourn, but we will not resume the live stream. So thank you to those that have joined us live stream this evening, and we'll sign off from live stream for